once you set aside some of the story and just start looking around in the side underneath it, it's kind of like, oh, this is a lot less sad. Like, let's bring it up a tad. Like, okay, we're good. Yeah. Oh, when I gotta do that? Oh. Hey, it's Ja Rule. Stood like that in a puddle of water outside of DUA today, using Frost Boy to freeze big dudes. It was fun. And then Lisa for the electroshock. Once I frosted people, electroshock. I'm like, dang, I'm learning. Well, I walked by y'all's electrocube. Like, I was exploring areas that come along this platform, and there's this cube sitting there. I'm like, whoa, no. I'm like, nope.
And then there's me.
Hey, I have no idea how artifacts work. I keep leveling them up, and I have no idea what I'm doing with them. I'm just like, level 5, sure. Yes, doing that. I've already ascended. I've ascended, I think, everybody. So I've got Maid John. She's ascended, but she's like my lowest level because I keep using the initial character, Lisa, Amber, and Frost Boy, which I can't remember his name. And Amber, I've gotten her cooking skill up that she can make steaks that have her little bow on them. Yeah, I have no idea. It's like Amber special steak. I'm like, okay. Well, not knowing what to do, I spent a tremendous amount of time cooking. I just like gathered all this stuff and I found the cooking pot. And I'm like, sure, I'll just do this a lot until I can auto cook like shit, a whole big amount of stuff.
Well, hello everyone. It is Friday night. It is Saturday night. I keep getting that wrong.
Saturday.
Habits. Old habits die hard.
You just want it one day back in time.
I just want it one day back in time. How y'all doing? It's been a whole week. Oh, it's been 2 weeks since we last all got together, and we're talking about some pretty serious stuff tonight. But how have you guys been the last couple weeks?
Well,
Busy.
Mm-hmm.
Busy. Actually, speaking of cooking food earlier, I've been making a lot of food and a lot of recipes. So, prune whip, Peter Lay's prune whip, awesome stuff.
Glad.
Actually, a better recipe was the poaching eggs in marinara sauce, homemade marinara sauce.
Ooh, interesting.
So that's doing that, and then of course.
okay.
Just doing the regular watching anime because that's what I get to do.
Exactly. Yeah. John,
how about you guys? I think you guys did something.
Onsen trip.
Yeah. We were at a traditional style, Japanese style onsen. Not in Japan. In the U.S. of A.
We will eventually.
Someday.
Come on.
Someday. But yeah, heading over to Japan is a bit difficult. So we went to a place in the area that is basically like a lodge style building, but with onsen style baths in the basement, and it was
Jealous.
Relaxing.
Yep. It was great. It really was. Highly recommend it. So we're here today to talk about a little anime film called The Grave of the Fireflies, which people have heard about. There we go. somewhat infamous anime film. Certainly famous.
The spoiler warning says Royal Space Force
Oh,
Wings
you're
of
right.
Hanamase.
Thank you. That is not what it should be. It should be... Because I fixed it in the other place, but not over here. So we will fix that by doing that, and then slightly shrinking it down, and moving it over, and then we will transition. As we say, it's not a Saturday night without something going wrong.
Yeah.
There we go. We're here today to talk about an anime film that definitely has a reputation, Grave of the Fireflies. The 1988 anime film by Studio Ghibli and Isao Takahata, part of the worst double feature in human history.
Yeah.
When it was released in theaters opposite My Neighbor Totoro, but more about that later. Grave of the Fireflies, a war film, very much a war film. What are your guys' experiences and sort of history with Grave of the Fireflies?
I watched it years ago.
Same here.
I've been watching this periodically, off and on, for many years. I probably came across this in the 90s. And, of course, the first watching was always just kind of just like tears and just misery. And then as you watch it more and more, you pick up more and more. And even now, before you guys went to the onsen, Brent brought up some points. I was just like, a new lens to look at this movie. So the in preparation for this week, watched it, of course, again, 3 a.m. in the morning, which I do not recommend.
Gosh.
And so it was just still heartbreaking, and it was still just it is what it is, and but there's a lot more to it than that, and it's which is why we're here. We're going to get into it.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So I watched a video a while back by Toshio Okada, the Ota King, where he did a sort of a breakdown of the film, and the title of it is Why Grave of the Fireflies is 100 times sadder than you think it is, which we'll get to a little bit later. But he sort of broke down some of the things in there that I had not seen. So like you guys, I've seen Grave of the Fireflies in the past. Interestingly, as part of his stream, he asked people, have you seen Grave of the Fireflies, and do you plan to ever watch it again in the future? And like 80% of people said either I have never watched it and am never going to watch it, or I have watched it and will never watch it again, because of how emotionally powerful it is. And what was kind of neat was seeing Okada being like, no, like this is a film that you should watch. Like it's a film that rewards study and analysis, and you don't be afraid of it too much, which I think is very true. It is a
it's hard to set aside those issues. You know what I mean? It's like when you see it the first time, like Captain Laserus brings up, you hate the Aunt. We talked a little bit about that. It's very hard to get through the like the Onion. You get through the first layer, and you're like, "Arr!" And the second layer, you're like, I'm a little less, grudgy. And then the third and the fourth layer, I'm sure you mine out all of the great depth that there is. But holy cow, that takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to do.
Exactly. Because there's a lot here. I mean, this is a this is a film. And let's get into it. I mean, it's actually does not start there, and I want to give this film its due, because it starts here. It starts with Seita staring the audience in the eye. And I think that's worth noting, is that this is like directly addressing the audience. And then, and again, this is something that I cannot take claim for, because it's something that Okada brought up, is that when Seita looks over to one side of this train station he's in, and you can just barely see it on here, there's this like ashtray to one side, this sort of conical, or this sort of buoy-shaped ashtray. And that is a modern ashtray. That is a 1980s style ashtray. Because what's happening here is that that actually fades away and you see Seita. We'll get back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
That means there's something going on here time-wise. And so we see, him looking at himself as he is, dying in it's actually not a subway station. I think it's a bus terminal. And here's where a lot of people call this an anti-war film. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's the train station.
Yeah.
Because it's the train that Seita and Setsuko take at one point and get off at the station and pass through it. Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, is this a bus station? Where is it? And then going through like more, analysis-wise, adding onto my memory, I'm like, oh, no. I think that's the train station they were at.
Okay.
So he's come sort of in a circle to this where he's back at the train station, having arrived, having left, never leaving.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, oh, crap. So that meaning kind of hit me there. I'm like, oh God. Oh.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle that he is apparently. This is like when he comes on and you get that you notice the red hue when you're looking at the spirit, and that red hue kind of is the marker when you watch
an indicator of death.
Yeah, that it's the point of view is of his spirit, not of what's happening in the life or what he's looking back on. So when you have that redness and he's just kind of, just staring at you, and he's looking at himself and he does that little monologue and he tells you the date and what's happening. Then you start to realize you don't realize this on the first watch. You realize it on multiple watches.
Yeah,
that what he's talking about is that okay, I'm going to go through this story again.
Yeah,
and then it's almost as if he's forgotten, and then he comes back and he goes, okay, and so we're in one of these never-ending cycles since 1945. As he just keeps coming back to this thing over and over again, just as if he's running on the a circular train route. And he's just off the train, and there he is.
Yeah. Well, he's restless. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's restless. He's unfulfilled, unsatisfied in this. So he just repeats the story.
Well, and there are...
and I learned something years ago. A friend of mine in Tokyo that you never, for holiday cards, like if you're sending like Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever cards, never send a red envelope to someone in Japan because it's a death announcement. So I didn't think of this sort of red shift in Seita in this scene. Initially, I'm like, okay, it's like sepia tone, like you're looking at an old film, and it's like, but Steve, that you pointed that out, it's just like, it's a red shift because that red shift is a marker of death. I'm like, oh crap!
Yep.
There we go.
And while we're at it, one of the things I want to point out, I'm glad you brought up color. One of the things this film did unusual, which, as far as I know, is the first time this was done in anime. There are no black outlines in this film, or very, very few. They used dark brown for character outlines and character details.
I didn't notice that.
Which is kind of hard to do because it makes things less crisp, but it adds sort of a sepia tone to everything.
Yeah.
It makes things a little softer.
Yeah.
Which I think was very smart.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had not noticed that until I looked it up. And so a lot of folks say, okay, this is about sort of an anti-war film. They also say that it is sort of about man's inhumanity to man, except that this happens. He's laying there and some random stranger goes by and gives Seita food. At a time when food is extremely scarce. Like, this is what killed him, basically. And so there's obviously an irony in there.
Yep.
But also just the fact that, there is kindness in this world, right? This is not simply a world in which everyone is against these kids. And I think this is very much Takahata saying, no, this is a movie about people, about characters with their own motivations and their own aspirations and all sorts of things going on. It's not about heroes versus villains, as we'll see as we get into the movie.
Well, I thought it was interesting in that scene where the guy gives him food and you hear the dialogue going around Seita.
Yeah.
And they're saying that, dude, eat something, get up. We don't want the Americans to think that we're just, we don't want to, we think less of you and want you out of the way. Come on, eat, go somewhere.
Well, and there were street cleanup crews who would go and just grab all the orphans and take them somewhere, and would just find all these kids and just pull them all up and just take them to an orphanage, which was just some big building they had to, and they were fed and they were, provided with things. But it was very much let's get the streets clean and get these people out of the way because it doesn't look good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not great.
Which, in all honesty, in the end, that would have been a better plan for State.
Absolutely.
To get swept up, put into a building, fed, clothed, that stuff.
Absolutely. You also get this moment, which again, on rewatching, you don't realize. The guy comes over, see he's dead. He pulls out the tin, and he puts a finger in it and tastes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He cuts his finger.
Okay.
So he's not tasting what's in it.
Okay.
He's trying to get the lid open.
Oh, okay.
And he cuts his finger because there's a very split moment where he grabs it and he goes, and he goes to open. And he goes, oh.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, I thought it was tasty.
Yeah, because that's why the subsequent scene it falls out.
Mm-hmm.
Because he couldn't really get it open. He's like, throws it away.
And it's broken, thus throw it away. That makes sense. Yeah. And this is again where you kind of get your first hint of what's going on, your second hint of what's going on here, because the wait a minute, the tin falls open. For some reason, it's not showing me that. There it is, and then Setsuko appears, because of course that is Setsuko. And again, when you're just watching it, you think, oh, now we're going back to ghost time. Okay, now we're going to learn more. No. Like, these all tie together. And it's also worth noting, Setsuko doesn't know where Seita is initially. She wakes up and she's like, what's going on here? And then she sees Seita and goes up to him, which is, again, about what happens at the end. And the candies become real again. You can buy these if you want to torture yourself.
Yes, you can. The little box actually comes with a picture of Seita and Setsuko on it.
Yep.
Like, oh.
Yep. Isn't that lovely?
Oh, terrible candy advertising.
Yes.
Terrible.
And you're right. And they take the train away. And so they're on the train alone.
Yep. Again, the red shift.
Mm-hmm. Again, the red shift.
Now we get whole red shift.
Mm-hmm. And then they start seeing the war. And this is clearly Seita starting to connect back with what happened, starting to really reminisce, and seeing what's going on. Whereupon you get this very interesting transition. Everything up to this point has been very character focused, very, very soft, if you will. And one of the things I love that Takahata does is that the war elements are very much set in contrast to sort of the human character moments of these beautifully realized, combat plane sequences. Not combat, actually, just planes flying over. And it's gorgeously done. And it's interesting realizing that you never see really Japanese planes up there. Yeah. It's always the American planes that are portrayed in this very glorious way. Like, look at how powerful this was. Like, this was a, tremendous force to try to fight against. And so let's go and say
which I mean is driven home at the later point in the film when you see a fighter, not a long distance, high altitude aircraft dropping. A fighter is just free ranging, and there's no response from any Japanese force at all. This fighter's just doing its thing and flying off.
Yeah, you don't even hear an aircraft gun anywhere. Yeah.
And for those of you out in chat land, the reason why this is so important is because in real historical context, Japanese were not, the civilians were not really made aware of what, and as not just Japan, but it was in Germany and everyone who was losing at that point. The citizenry was not really on a certain level. They knew that things were not good just because they could tell by the rationing and things like that. But they weren't told how bad things were. So when you see the bombers coming over as Brent's depicting and telling, it's just this incredible display and forceful display. It basically, and there's nothing happening to them. You notice that there's no guns going off trying to shoot any of these things down. There's no Zero airplanes coming down. And it's just basically saying that Japan has lost the war, but it just hasn't been told to the people yet. So they're a little bit confused as to about what's going on. And then, of course, the firebombing starts because they're not surrendering because they, I think if the citizenry, on a side note, in real life, if the citizenry had known that they were actually losing, I think they might have said something to the government like, can we stop now? Can we just stop?
Yeah. And there's something you see, multiple times in the film is that the citizenry is generally either apathetic towards the war or they're like towing the party line in a sort of, well, we got to get this done. Like we got to see this through, so we'll do whatever it takes. But not in a glorious way, just, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? Yeah, absolutely. It's
well, that part that I had mentioned, before we started, where Seita could have gone to authorities for help, and the guy goes by on the bicycle, and he's obviously an authority figure, pretty likely a constable. But if you think about this quiet corner of the country, the Kempeitai, the secret police, would show up if somebody narked you out for being a defeatist.
Yep.
So, even though the farmer sitting in the field is like, I can't give you any extra food. I can barely feed myself.
Yeah.
He's, he's just not saying anything about why. He's not saying anything about what bad stuff is going on. He's just keeping his mouth mostly shut. Because if you say something and you openly criticize, you're going to get a knock on the door. And it's like, okay, well, Kempeitai or Gestapo. You know what I mean? They had a function for secret police to keep people quiet.
And Seita is a sailor's son.
Yeah. So that may have been inculcated in him. It's like, son, no matter what you do, shut up and don't say anything about anything.
Yeah. Even more eyes on him.
Yeah.
And so we get them preparing for the raid.
Excuse me.
And it's really interesting watching this, how Seita reacts. Because he goes outside once the fire hits. And we get this rather long sequence. And by the way, we have as soon as we move away from the ghosts, the music stops. This is all very stark. It's just sound effects and him out there. And he sees all of this fire starting, and then we see a bunch of shots of a fire pail.
Yep.
And a mop. And a cistern of water.
Yeah, sandbags for civil defense.
Yep.
Nobody's doing anything.
Right. Including Seita. He's standing in front of around all of this fire, and he's just frozen. And then and not only is he frozen, like he's clearly staring at this stuff. His expression is not really, oh my gosh, I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of like, interesting.
To me, when it's always been when he's doing that, is that for me, it's always been an inward struggle within him as to going, oh crap, there's fire bombs coming down, things are starting to get on fire. Now, when you notice when he's actually looking at these things, the fire's not so bad, and he's debating whether or not to fight the fire.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting how the pail shows up again later on.
Absolutely.
But he's looking at it. But it's the first thing that he actually really does with gusto and with purpose is to bury the goods.
Food.
Oh yeah.
The food, the pickled plum, the pickled plums, all that. By the way, folks, if you've never had a pickled plum, find some. Go to an Asian grocery store because they're amazing. They're wonderful.
Umaboshi, I think it is.
Yeah. And but he's when he's doing this, when he's looking at it, and he's just indecisive. And then he kind of forgets, I think, almost that he has his little sister on his back.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everything comes back together. He's trying to hurry up and get out, and then he's stuck and trying to decide what to do, and then the fire starts to come out, and he's just like, you know what, this is pointless. I gotta get the heck out of here. And
well, it's also even though he's obviously wearing a like school military styled uniform, he's presumably been drilled at school to eventually join the military. He's still a kid, so in some of that adults put out fires. You know what I mean? That moment of indecision is like, he's been very responsible. He's buried the food. He's also ditched his mother. But now he's responsible again. He has his sister. But there's fire. Adults handle fire, so he's not responsible for that. So it's like, it's this shifting responsibility where he's not quite an adult, but he's not quite a child. So where is he in the middle of this? What does he have to do here? What does he do?
Yeah. And it should be pointed out, he's 14, which is a year prior to the age of majority in traditional Japan. That crept upwards. But by this point during the war, 15-year-olds were getting drafted. Yeah. So he was close to that. And then there's one or two lines in the film where they make that point. Like, you're gonna be fighting in this war soon. And you're absolutely right. There is this sort of middle ground in this. Also, I just got to say, I love the irony of the firebombs raining down with the alarm bell in the background, which is the alarm bell they usually ring for things like fires. And it's just sitting there with just fire. Like, what are you going to do? You're done.
Well, the interesting thing, too, about incendiary bombs is it's not a passive tool. If you've ever watched any old civil defense stuff, you are literally, if there's an incendiary device that falls, you are literally to throw like sandbags over it. Because what it does is it's phosphorus. So it burns. You can't throw it in water. It won't go out. But what part of its design is to go down flaming white hot. And then it explodes. It's not like a 250-pound bomb going off, so it's not like a crater that occurs in the area, but it blows up the phosphorus chunk and spreads little bits of phosphorus at least within a reasonable number of meters from the device. So some of the old civil defense stuff is like, if it falls, hits the ground, get sand on it, and then get away from it. If it's still burning and you've come across it and it's on fire, get away from it because it will go off.
Right. So the importance of fire in Japan it goes back centuries.
Yeah.
The big disasters in Japan are revolving around earthquakes and fire. So fire is simply because of the way that of construction in Japan up to honestly within 50 years, 60 years ago, which was very much wooden construction. So fire is always, in terms of, for us here in America, fire is not a mentality that we have. We don't live in these buildings, but they do.
In the Edo period, arson was a capital offense.
A capital offense. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. You can be put to death for being a little firebug or just playing around, honestly, and catching things on fire because it would spread so quickly.
Right. Well, think about the usage of stonework in feudal Japan.
Right.
You built a castle, the majority of the footing of stone, because you could get that done. And then the upper entire portions are all wood. Because the greatest resource that they could harvest was wood. It's like, bad for firebombing.
Now, the interesting thing about the firebombing, why do you do the firebombing? It's at this point in Japan, there's different people will argue the point. It's basically just to get the nation to surrender at this point. This is the most destructive thing that you can do. I mean, here in America, there was even a program to use bats to release them from an airplane, drop it, and the bats would, because they go into dark places, nooks, and they would have pyrotechnic devices attached to them, and they blow up the bats with the buildings. But yeah, so it's a big, so it's really ingrained. So it's just really interesting to see all of that just going into a 14-year-old's mind, and you kind of have to stop and think, and you just kind of go, this is the point where he's not a man, but he's not a kid, but he's at that point where he's just like, I need someone to tell me what to do.
And it should be pointed out, this is a point in the war where there has been a lot of bombing. So they're expecting traditional ordnance and traditional bombing. That's not what they're seeing all of a sudden. What is this thing? And they see it's fire and like, oh, that's kind of worse. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about the craters left from traditional bombing. You do get fires. I mean, but in a lot of, if you figure it's fused for an impact, if it impacts like a stone bank building, that impact is going to be on like the top of the building, the framework of the building, and you're going to blast like, a huge crater. And then you might set off some secondary fires, but it's mostly a blast wave and shrapnel. So you can kind of deal with that. You just kind of get out of the way. This fire bombing, you drop those incendiary charges in like this block, and once that block's on fire, it goes everywhere, and it will just keep going. Like a bomb stops. Incendiary devices just set everything off. And it's like, oh god.
And
just think of the wildfires that we've had this year, because 2020 is such a great year here in Australia, and how quickly they just boom, 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 boom. But it's and the damage that fire does. You're right, John. The damage that fire does is so much more insidious. And a bomb crater and bombs, explosions, concussion waves are weird things. There's some things that they'll damage, and there's some things they won't. It's just how it moves and how it goes. Fire just consumes and takes everything, and then you, as Seta's going through in the aftermath, you see the bodies of the people who not only were trying to get away, but the bodies of the people who are trying to fight the fire. And that's a little bit of a reason why I'm not happy with the aunt later on, because she makes a comment to that effect about him joining the efforts to fight the fires.
So what's interesting too about this scene is that everybody's running except Seta. Everybody's reacting, everybody's doing something. And I think that is, again, sort of Takahata being very intentional here. Seta is not simply doing what other people... He's not simply reacting to the crowd, right? He is not just going along with that. He is fundamentally just kind of vapor-locked at the moment. He just doesn't know what to do, which is kind of really interesting. And so what does he do?
But again, I think that falls back to that... that problem that he's not adult enough to know what to do, and he's not child enough to go along with what he's told. He's stuck. You're absolutely right. He's vapor locked in that moment because it's like, crap, where's my responsibility in this?
And so what does he do? He establishes a pattern here. He runs away. Which again, very human response, very understandable response, very rational response. And then we get that wonderful shot where he... Well, I need to go back up. Where he goes up and I've just had to kind of respond for a little bit. Where do we get the moment? Hold on. Not there. I know he goes up above.
The Twin Pines that he said?
Yeah. We see this, and then we see that, and we see people waiting. Oh yeah, and then we have... So this is an important shot, important scene. Everyone's hunkered down in a bunker, and there's a soldier going back and forth saying, "All hail the Emperor." And when I first saw that, I was like, what the hell's... Oh, he's being sarcastic. This is, again, that those people being like, thank you, Emperor, for putting us in this situation. Well done. This is great. It is very much, the regular people making a commentary. There we go. And then he climbs up on the hill. Notice he glances up this hill and sees the trees, and he's like, but... Okay, this kind of makes... This is the best we can do. It starts to rain. And then he climbs up, and then we get the big shot of, as you were saying, this is what fire does.
Yep.
It's all gone.
Well, I think it's interesting, too, his going to that little concrete culvert, whatever that and the hillside is a foreshadowing of seeking shelter in that hillside cave-like structure.
Absolutely. Yep. Totally. And so things are starting to, and it's funny how quickly, like, everyone else's reaction is, oh, okay, moving on. Like, people are mourning, people are grieving, but there's still just kind of like, and then we see people just walking across the street. And just, okay, this is just kind of what life is now. And so they do the responsible thing. They go to the local elementary school. And then I love how their neighborhood friend reacts when she sees Seita and Setsuko. Because she rushes over, grabs Seita by the shoulders, moves him away, gives him the news that their mother's been hurt, and then, you need to go see her, and then goes over to Setsuko and says, Seita'll be back, let's play for a little bit, and just perfectly, like, redirects, the different people there. So Seita knows what's going on, Setsuko's kind of being shielded, and there's this, horribly painful bit of foreshadowing where he enters the wrong room. Yeah, and you're like, it's like, this is not gonna go well, and sure enough. And I'll try to skip the imagery of his mother because it is gruesome. But yeah, it did not go well for her. The implication being, and you can see in the bandages she was burned. She clearly did not.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating about that to me is how, again, he's in this house, he sees the smoke, fire has been in his head this entire time, right? Fire was the first thing to sort of hit his house. And so where was his mother? Who knows? But it just definitely hits hard.
Yeah.
And you wonder, and this is where Takahata is just so brilliant, he doesn't tell you what's going through Seita's mind, right? In the hands of another director, Seita would break down and say, what am I going to do? Mom's going to be okay, whatever. No. He's just kind of processing and really kind of not reacting. He's just like, okay, well, this is bad. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to go outside.
Well, this is kind of the moment where you punt.
Yes.
He doesn't have any direction about what he's going to do, so he's just like, okay, mom's in hospital.
Yeah. And so,
that's how we'll do this.
Yeah. And I want to point that out. Like, he goes out to Setsuko, and the first thing he does is lie to her. Which, again, reasonable, understandable. But he's just like, no, that's not what's actually happening here. And that's really interesting compared to what we know later on about Setsuko, which we'll get to. And then you have this really interesting scene. And again, no heroes or villains. This woman comes out, seeks them out, tries to help out. Can I help you at all? And Tina's like, no, we're just going to go and go to my aunt's house and, thanks, but bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have, I don't know, but I just, of course, we wouldn't have had a movie if he did this the right way. But
yeah, exactly.
Right. But your first impulse is like, she sought you out, she saw you, she grabbed you, pulled you aside, made you do something very important, and told you some important information, willingly took care of your little sister while you had to deal with this awful thing. And then you come out, she comes out, and she makes sure that you've got some level of food. She gets them, at least tries to get them biscuits.
Yeah.
And she's like, and I have a feeling that if this had been, of course, real life, and Sailor just said, do you mind if we just, and she probably would have been like, yes, come with me now.
Crash at my
We're
place.
all going to a displacement camp somewhere where we've got tents and other stuff set up. And just come with us.
Right. I need a moment to get my stuff together. So, and she would have done it. I have a feeling that character would have just been like, yep, you're coming with me. Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. And then how does Seita deal with this? He sees Setsuko is upset. Setsuko doesn't really want to, acknowledge. And again, she's 4, understandably.
Yeah.
And so what does Seita do? He walks away. because he's 14. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to deal with his 4-year-old sister's, emotional state. And his reaction is to do somersaults on the childhood swing. And there's this
repeatedly,
over and over and over. And there's this huge swell of tragic music, as the film is very clearly telling you, like, this is not the best reaction to this. Like, this is tragedy here, folks. He's just trying to find something to do. And on the one hand, psychologically, that's smart.
Yeah. Well, but also, he doesn't have the tools to cope with this, because have you seen him cry?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Have you seen any reaction out of him that is, like, coping with the horror he sees around him? He's still functionally moving forward in a fashion. He's not standing in the middle of the street just, wide-eyed, just going, but he's also not doing what most people would do when a family member is that grievously injured. Why I need help, God, what's going on? Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's just like
he's in complete and utter shock.
Yeah.
And denial.
The problem, denial.
It might as well be from Egypt, because he's in denial.
But he's in such shock that he's almost acting normal, and I think that's why the friend, the mother's friend, kind of let him go, was that he appeared to be capable, like outwardly capable, but then as you pointed out, that the only thing he was doing was somersaults, and he's not really doing it for his little sister, he's doing it for himself, because he's trying to somehow cope, but he is in such shock through this entire time, and there's no guidance there. So because there's no guidance, he's swimming through the shock through the entire freaking movie, almost.
And it should be pointed out, Takahata said one of the reasons he made the film when he did, the late 80s, is because Seita is not your typical soldier boy protagonist, for lack of a better term. The typical, I'm going to step up a lip, I'm going to soldier on, I'm going to do the right thing. The typical sort of shonen protagonist, I'm going to... Right. He is kind of, not self-absorbed, but he doesn't seem to be very martial. He doesn't seem to be very disciplined, which was kind of the classic statement about the kids of the 80s, right? They'd grown up during this time. So Seita is, in a way, very relatable, because he is caught in this point, like you guys were saying, where there's clearly this sense of duty in his head, and I wonder at this point if that isn't sort of getting in his way, where he's like, no, I have to be the adult here, and I have to be sort of, the father to Setsuko, when he doesn't have the tools to do that, and so he's just kind of doing the wrong thing there. And so mother dies, gets burned, and you see the box that he's carrying with him. And I do, again, Takahata, injecting a little humor into here where he can. Of the woman next to Seita just kind of looking down at the box, knowing what that is, being like, what do I say? And
which we see that scene where the mother, where they go off to cremate, and that scene that I wondered is, how do you know? I mean,
you don't.
You just scoop up some ashes and then take that with you to where?
That's essentially what he did. It was a mass grave. It was easier to do it. Lack of supplies, so they did it all together. And you had to know that part of it was going to be your mother in there. So you know that for certain. But that's what you have. Here's your your box.
And we have confirmation later in the film that that's her.
Yeah.
So we do know it's her.
But it's her and everybody else in there.
Sure. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like that's just kind of the part I think is weird. Is like, wow, as far as like cremation ceremony goes, usually it's focused on the single person that you put in that box, and here he's carrying the collective death with him. It's not just his mother. It's all these people that have died as a result of this. And he's bearing the burden of his sister and the collective death with him. And it's just like, 14. Yeah. No tools to cope with this. This is not a thing.
Well, and
14-year-olds usually do.
And we'll get back to this, unless you're Shinji Ikari. He now sees this. Spirit Seita is watching this. Takahata is pointing out this is an important moment, right, in what's going on, which is fascinating. Seita's not watching his mother pass away. He's not watching his mother get cremated. He's watching the box. And we'll get to why that might be a little bit later. And then, and I need to call out. So there's this amazing shot when they pull into the station. This parallax on the train. So they had two different layers for the front and for the one side and the other side of the train, and they're both moving, and one's moving at a slightly different speed. So you get that three-dimensionality. I'm like, oh my gosh, Takahata. Oh, gorgeous. And think of the time.
It was a neat effect.
Yep. Yeah. Just adds that reality to it. And so they get off, and they walk over to see the house where they get in. And what does Seita do with the box?
Hides it.
Hides in the garden. Great.
Which is in and of itself another lie.
Exactly.
Another falsehood, if you will, that Seita is perpetuating on everybody around him, including himself.
Yep. Yeah. And his aunt, who would like to know, and which is actually a really important point about the aunt. Anyway, he comes to see the aunt, and the aunt is nice. Like, rewatching the film, I was like, oh man, at the beginning of this, she had no issues whatsoever. Yeah. She brought stuff for them, she set out futons, like, everything's gonna be hunky-dory. And this is what made me realize what was kind of going on here. And so he gives Setsuko the ring from his mother. And you can tell she's like, Mommy doesn't need this anymore?
Yeah. And
he just kind of redirects, and like, she's starting to get it. And then he goes out, he gets the box, brings it inside, hides it again. Goes and gets the resources, and so gets the stuff. Also, again, I just want to point out, oh my gosh, Takahata. Seita goes by this water, and you'll notice that wherever he is covered by water, it's slightly wavy. And that water is a repeated effect layered on top of him. So whoever drew Seita walking forward had to figure out where the water was and put little wavy lines where the water was every frame as he's moving forward to make that effect work.
Oh.
It's nuts!
Wow.
And how much did they get paid?
I know! Jeez.
I can just imagine that discussion. Be like, okay, this is how we're storyboarding. This is how it's going to work. And you have to figure this all out. Go.
Like, can you imagine that guy just being like, going,
that's my month.
Home for the next 3 weeks.
Exactly, yeah.
That's it. I quit. I'm going to go work on Akira.
Exactly. Yeah. And so he comes back.
And I'll be honest, the first time I saw this, I swore he was going to go over and wash his face, and somebody's going to steal the cart. I don't know what part of my psyche made that happen, but I'm like, oh, no, don't go to the water. You go to the water, they'll steal the cart, you'll lose everything. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me, given this film.
Yeah.
And so he comes home, reveals to his aunt that his mother's passed away, and she's like, why didn't you tell me? Jeez. Whereupon, after making that realization, he takes a bath with his sister. Like, it's all cool. It's all fine. And then we go out, we get the first scene with the Fireflies, which becomes an important theme of the film. Fireflies being short-lived. Also, okay, this may be in poor taste. Well, literally it was. Apparently, a couple of years ago, I think it was Takuma Shoten's Twitter account. They tweeted something about a character in an anime who had died, or a character in something that had died, and they tweeted out, "Why does character have to not live so long?" It was basically the quote from Grave of the Fireflies, but swapping out the character name, and folks were like, "Dude, like poor taste, like come on, like not the same." And they're like, "You know what? You're right. Maybe we should not be evoking Grave of the Fireflies for like random anime characters." Anyway, so we get them running around Fireflies, and again, this is Takahata. We don't understand what the Fireflies represent yet, but he's layering that in, that Fireflies are this imagery, because we all know that the name of the film is, but we start getting that. And it's also notable that the Fireflies first show up after he sort of acknowledged the death of his mother. Right? It's an ending. And they have the first moment. Mm-hmm.
Also, Setsuko, she's 4.
Mm-hmm.
So her ability to handle delicate things is very limited.
Yeah.
So I got the feeling, I'm like, okay, she crushes the Firefly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which could be, she's catching on to something's wrong about the mother.
Mm-hmm.
So she's grasping in some minor way the concept of death.
Mm-hmm.
But because she's 4, there's like no nuanced way to deal with delicate subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So she crushes it, and he's like, "Oh no! You have to be gentle."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he's trying to be gentle, in not, mom's in the hospital. Oh, they transferred mom. Things are okay. Everything's fine. Dad's on the boat.
Yep.
Everything will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I thought that was very interesting. As I was watching through it again, I'm like, oh, she is small enough to deal with the black and white.
Yeah.
And he's trying to nuance this with lies, but because she can't, he doesn't want to give her the black and white. He wants her to just let it, just drop it for now. And it's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here.
And you have that line of dialogue: "Don't squeeze so hard." And I think, boy, is that an image of don't hold on too hard to things. Don't focus on this too much, because you might lose the forest for the trees, Seta. So yeah, that's a thing. That was page 1 of my notes. Oh boy. And then we get again sort of a notable scene where the aunt is cleaning the burned rice out of the bowl and eating it, because you don't waste food. And this is where she starts to get a little annoyed at Seta. And we start getting the hints that things are not going to be too great. And what do we see? Indeed, we see Seta kind of laying around with Setsuko reading manga or a novel or something. And she comes in, and it's worth noting that when she says, like, "Hey, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing something with your life?" He's just kind of like, "What? Like, It's a very sort of childish reaction. It's not, no, I can't do that because XYZ, I have this plan. No, he's just like, tell me what to do, right? It's very much that.
Yeah. Because arguably he has the aunt could watch Setsuko.
Exactly.
So his cousin is not only going to school, but she drops in there that she's doing war work.
Yep.
Right.
So it's like, and his cousin is older than him.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know what I mean? It's like, he could be doing something
and he's
while his sister gets watched, and he does nothing.
In the movie, though, he does say that, living at home, he did have a job at some metalworks.
Factory or yeah, exactly.
So he did have a factory, and he says, well, there's no factories around here. So...
Mm-hmm.
got nothing.
And again, it's
just sit around, and it's kind of like an excuse.
Exactly. And again, that very kid thing of, why aren't you studying? Well, they didn't assign me homework.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but you could be doing other things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and the aunt starts getting,
Fancy.
I remember being 14, 15 years old, and my mom at summer, during summer break, my mom going, that lawn's not going to mow itself. Like, put the comic book underneath it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you also see that he's not responding to an adult at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Beforehand, he was needing to be told what to do. His dad, who is the authoritative figure in the family, is out there on the boat, supposedly, hopefully, on the boat fighting
with the fleet somewhere.
With the fleet somewhere out there. His mom is dead, and there's this woman that he doesn't really know that well, by the way. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of giving him orders, and he's just like going, who are you again? Mm-hmm. Not really understanding his situation, which is she's giving you food. She's giving you shelter. Mm-hmm. She's giving you these things. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that the aunt is this wonderful person, because I've got my own issues with her. But she's got points. I mean,
exactly.
There's things that you could be doing. Seda could, even if he's not doing a job, what could he be doing? He could be repairing the house. He could be setting up a bomb shelter. He could be doing anything. He could be tilling if they have a small yard, maybe he could be growing something.
Yeah.
How about the farmer that he walks by and asks for food? He could be going to help that old guy who's obviously by himself.
Who made also that old guy made that point where later on in the movie he says, like, this is a community effort.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Seta's not a part of the community.
Right. Yeah. And we'll get to how around he is. So then we get one of the most infamous scenes in the movie, I would say, the scene where the aunt doesn't give them as much rice as the family. And again, no heroes, no villains, right? The aunt has her issues. This is a not uncommon thing, right? Where it's like, we have rations for people. We have to apportion them in certain ways. You're non-productive, and so you don't get the same rations as everyone else. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it was a good idea, but this was a not uncommon perspective at the time.
Well, he who works eats.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And the part that is kind of like petty is, rather than her perspective of Seda, you need to get out and do something. You're not going to get the good stuff because you're doing nothing. She didn't really need to apply that to Setsuko.
Right.
Setsuko's a little girl. And it's like, okay, so now you've gone from, Seda, you need a lesson. You're not learning anything. You're just laying around. So here, it's guilt by association. She just applies the same sort of pettiness to a little girl. It's like, dude, that's just, there's reasons that you cannot like the aunt other than just she's watching her family. So like,
the issue that I've had with the aunt after so many viewings, and I still have it, is basically go back to where Seda digs back up all the stuff from the jar that he buried before the bombing, firebombing. Brings it back. Everybody's happy. There's good stuff in here. There's really good stuff in here. And so he portions out, and of course he keeps a little bit for himself for his little sister, the candies. But he pretty much says here, here to everybody, and eventually that runs out. And of course that level of food runs out, which they all enjoy because it's something that nobody else in the village is getting because of what his efforts. So he views his efforts as, hey, I provided you something. Why are you giving me guff about this?
Right.
But then she checks in on him on one of the times that he's loafing around, and she goes, "Did you write a letter to your dad?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did." She goes, "Yeah, I haven't received it yet, one either." and up to that point, she makes little snide comments, not really trying to be mean, but she goes, "Oh, you military kids are so spoiled. You get all these good rations." And so, for me, for years and still now, when she starts getting harsh on Seda, which kind of deserves it, honestly, but you're right, the little sister doesn't. Part of me is just like going, well, she's realizing that she's not going to get the military rations.
Yep.
That the father, it's for whatever reason, and she probably knows, and she's not going to say it just yet, that he's
gone,
dead.
Yeah,
he's gone.
Yeah,
because nobody's responding, and she sees Seda as a pipeline to additional rations that she and her family can take advantage and take care of.
Yep.
And while I do have a problem with her, with the new lens that I'm kind of looking at things, I realize that she's looking out for her family.
Right.
Because you also hear about people and her complaining about, hey, I already have these people that I need to take care of. Now I got to take care of these people. Right. Yeah. And you see a little bit of the greed, and you see a little bit of almost, well, if I'm not going to get the rations, why do I have this kid around? And so she's just like, I got to make him work. I got to make him do something.
Yeah.
And not in a mean way, but she's just thinking, I got to make him do something, so that we can all make it through this. Right. But she does it in such a way that it's just like when he does leave, when they do leave, she's shocked.
She is, yeah.
She's shocked. She's just like, you are? Really? Seriously? And she doesn't really understand what she has done, and she's not equating what her needs and desires are with Seda.
In a sense, she's trying to be his mother, right? She's trying to see, hey, you're 14, you need to do some, you need to do your chores, basically. And she's not factoring in the fact that he's just gone through all this horrible trauma, the fact that he's, clearly not emotionally mature enough to really process that yet. But also, she's never had a 14-year-old son that we know of, right?
Right. So, she had a daughter.
Yeah. So, she doesn't quite know how to react, and everyone's doing their best, right? Everyone's doing what seems right at the time.
Well, and arguably, too, when she makes, and it's a jerk comment when she says to Sato, well, they could firebomb this place at any time. And it's like, lady, you guys live in a podunk nowhere. You conceptually, you live in this little tiny place. You don't know. You have not been out to the big city or what was left of it to even conceptualize what Sata's going through. And again, I'm not excusing him laying around, but what you're saying is there's a lack of understanding. He's still processing as a kid. She's trying to be like, you need to do stuff. You need to do this. And it's like, neither one of you are on the same vibe.
Right.
It's like you kind of need to apply a little bit more like, hey, Sata, why don't we sit down and have a discussion about this?
Right.
Will you write a letter to your father's commanding people and tell them where you've moved so that maybe we can tap in on those luxury rations. And let's talk about this because, again, up to this point, Sata's seen all the stuff, and he's not had a breakdown moment. He's not had a moment where he's expressed his internal feelings about what's going on. He's just kind of kept it all chill and just nothing. And it's like,
Yep, exactly. And so, how does he deal with all that? Let's go to the beach. They run off, and we get that scene, and boy, was this kind of a shocker for me, where they walk through the vegetable patches, and he's like, "Oh wow, they're vegetable patches now." And you realize, oh, these are where the houses were. They just planted vegetables everywhere. Oh yeah, of course. That's what you'd have to do, make use of that land, because you have to. And so they go to the beach and start playing around, and have this, little time on the beach. And here's the first time you see Setsuko's back. And Seita does not. And I distinctly remember watching this movie the first time and going, oh, there's an animation mistake. There's some kind of weird coloration. what is that? And I think that's exactly the reaction you're supposed to have, is something's not right, and no one's noticing it.
And Setsuko's not really saying anything particularly like, you know, I mean, it's just a thing.
And that's another thing that's worth bringing up. And again, no heroes and villains. You know, Setsuko's clearly uncomfortable. She's scratching herself. She's doing this all throughout the film. And she never says anything about it. You know, if halfway through the film she said, hey, my back hurts, or whatever, Saito would probably go, huh, okay, let's see the doctor, or something, right? She just does it. Again, she's 4. But that is another thing where if she just spoke up a little bit and were a little more honest and didn't just kind of soldier through, someone could have done something about it. But no, she's kind of doing it.
And we know she's capable of tantrums.
Absolutely.
You know, we know she is capable of that. Yeah. Oh, so if she was uncomfortable and in distress, we know she is fully capable of like breaking down and just crying. But she doesn't.
And now, this is another thing that Takahata brought up that was one of those. He says, understand, Grave of the Fireflies is being told entirely from Seita's perspective. So we are seeing his memories and versions of the aunt and Setsuko and all these events. Because he said he wanted to put a scene in the film where she had a tantrum, where she just kind of, you know, did what a little girl would do in the situation. But he was like, but no, Saito would block that. Saito would not be remembering those moments. He's remembering Setsuko as a little angel he has to take care of, right? Like, that's just his personality. So the day at the beach.
Again, lying to himself and everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, and again, we Takahata doesn't let us rest, so we have the dead body on the beach as well. You know, reminding us that even in the nicest of moments, there's some darkness there. And I think it's so fascinating.
Which is just interesting. The body's just there.
Yeah.
There's no people around. There's no like, oh, their boat sank. There's not people taking care of anything. Mm-hmm. It's just randomly a body on the beach, which either is just shock value or it's the point of so many people have died now. Yeah. It's not a thing.
It's not a factor.
Oh, dead. Cover them up. Move on.
In fact, and getting back to our themes, he comes over and, you know, what is his line to her? Don't look at that. Not what is it, not whatever, just avoid. Right? And again, very understandable, but... We're going to get this rather odd sequence where he remembers a time earlier on the beach with their mother. And we transition back, and again, this is kind of this unreliable narrator thing, where we're all seeing his memories. And we're seeing how great it was back in the day. When the air raid sirens start again, and they have to go back. Let's see here. And here we get the thing, as you were saying, with the mother's clothes. And where they decide to sell off their mother's kimonos for food. Which again, thing that happened, like a very, very rational thing. And Setsuko has a little tantrum here. Again, very understandably. Because she gets it. Right? Yeah. Like, this is where Setsuko realizes, subconsciously, I'm sure. But this is where wait, if they're selling off her kimonos, like, that's a final act. But again, she won't actually say anything about it. And this is where Seita, I'm starting to get verklempt, Ghost Seita sees this, and he can't stand it. This is where he starts freaking out. And he doesn't even want to hear, you know, Setsuko's cries, because he realizes this isn't, you know, these are my lies coming back to haunt me because I haven't let Setsuko deal. So, yeah. And so again, what does he do? He redirects to happier times. Everything was great back in the day. And very traditional, sakura petals right? Taco petals come down. Traditional Japan. Mother in a kimono.
Yep.
You know, Japan.
Father in his naval uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bonsai. It's just, gosh.
Yeah.
And the taco petals even transitioned to rice, like, you know, traditional Japan. Just your head being beaten down by it. And again, Seita's thrilled. Setsuko's unhappy. Seita cannot process. He doesn't understand why she's unhappy. Because he's just not paying attention. This is kind of his thing. It, sadly, is not paying attention to these things.
Yeah.
And he kind of sold his mother for rice, which, again, reasonable, understandable, logical, but also oof. And so they have food now. But then we get, and here's where it gets, you know, nasty, where she doesn't even let them have their own mother's rice, because they're not doing things. It's like, okay, that's where you've crossed the line, very clearly.
Well, doesn't even the little cousin says, are you being harsh again?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you being harsh again?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, it's a tough scene. Whereupon Seita goes back to finally do something about their normal life and finds out that they have 7,000 yen in the bank. I did some quick number crunching, and again, it's impossible to actually calculate how much that's worth, but it's in the tens of thousands of dollars, right? So $20,000, $30,000 roughly is what she's leaving in modern dollars, is what they have. So significant amounts of cash, and again, in this sort of situation, it's like, okay, that will last us for a long time. That is, from a 14-year-old's perspective, infinite money, right?
Not, of course, recognizing that it only is infinite money in a functioning economy.
Exactly.
That when you're reduced to a barter economy, the paper it might as well be toilet paper.
Yep.
If you don't have anything to trade for it, the money means nothing.
Yep.
Right. That's why I kind of watched this, and it reminded me of The Bicycle Thief. The Italian movie.
You had mentioned.
And you know, where the economy is broken down. So how much is that money really worth? Because you learn that he goes through a little over half of it in a very short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the economy is all out of whack. It's based mostly on a barter system. You're dealing with a 14-year-old. There's probably some adult who just went, yeah, it's 1,000 yen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you can see happening. And, you know, you're seeing crushing poverty. And, you know, in The Bicycle Thief, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a father who basically takes his own laundry, basically, and pawns it so he can get his bicycle back, so he can do this job to get money to feed his family, because it's all crushing debt. And he's putting on a jovial face for his son in the movie. And it just reminds me a lot of Seita. And, you know, it all ends about as well as it does for Seita. Minus the death, you know, it's just this whole thing of just like, here's the reality, and it's what Seita is seeing, but there's parts of it that aren't in there. Like, how did the money get spent? But you see him bartering for items with the farmer and stuff like that, and you're just like, okay, things are really not good when you're sitting there and you're going, how can I buy? He gets his money. He says, can I buy some food?
Yeah.
And what does he get? He doesn't get that much.
Yeah.
Think about what he gets. He gets all these other items, like this really nice, like, crock, a portable, like, oven,
stove,
yeah. An umbrella of sorts, you know, just, you know, the iconic umbrella, and all these things. But you see, he has these nice things, but then the food is nothing. It's just not, you know, he's not, there's no prioritizing. So you have to, you know, really wonder where that money went. Yep,
exactly. It's not good. Whereupon we get, the Setsuko cry. So
Yeah.
My Neighbor Totoro was happening. It was being made at the same time, and it's interesting how there are several sequences in this that are almost like shot for shot copies, because this is very much the Satsuki cry from My Neighbor Totoro, when she just kind of loses it near the end of the film. And so I wonder if they weren't kind of like comparing notes of kind of doing the same kind of thing of we're going to, because it's very unusual in any sort of animated work to have a character full face in a shot just start to cry. And it has this like very strong impact in the film, in both of the films. And I just, I always have to respect them for doing that, because it's a tough thing to see. And here's where you see that. Again, you have to wonder how idealized this is, where there's the little shards of candy in there, and then the big lump of candy. And so instead of taking the big lump of candy, she takes the little bits and eats that to kind of save the big candy for later. Which again is very wise, but who knows? And so they make candy water, which, I don't know, looked to me a lot like sake. And I wonder if they weren't kind of, again, traditional Japanese kind of thing. This kind of had that feel of here's this this drink, which he then gets to drink and enjoy. And he leaves the dishes for his aunt to take care of.
Well, speaking of sake, during New Year's festival, shrines present ame sake, which is sweet sake, as a consecrated drink.
Okay.
So now that you say that, it makes me kind of wonder if this is, if you know what I mean, if there's a deeper sort of quasi-religious context to there. It's like, oh, here's this sweetened drink that you drink for the New Year, that you drink at consecration, that you probably drink at funerals.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, would not surprise me at all.
And the dishes thing, that would Sata just he makes choices. He makes choices.
So he takes Setsuko out. We get the Fireflies again. And here's where I had one of my holy crud moments. Let me see if I can do this. There's that. Yeah. So when he's running, I'll see if I can pull up the subtitles for this. Because he's out with Setsuko, kind of helping her. They hear the bombs, and we transition to Ghost Seita running away. And then in this sequence, he runs up, and as he's doing this, they're not going to share the subtitles, but as he's running up, the line of dialogue we hear is the aunt saying basically, are you sure you couldn't be out there doing something like, helping out with the community? And that's the point at which he sees them at the cave.
Yeah.
And he's connecting, oh, I wasn't doing anything. And that's what drove me there. To running away. And to that place where we know things happen. So this is his mind connecting all of the threads as to how his actions have had consequences.
Yeah.
And so, plot progresses. He starts realizing it's time for him to go. The aunt is basically, do something. And so he moves out. They move out. And here's that scene, Steve, like you say, where they leave and the aunt's kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. Hello. Sorry, gotta meet you here. 1 second. There we go. Sorry about that. 1 moment. Oh. 1 moment. Slight technical issue. There we go.
The Ghost in the Machine.
Ghost in the Machine. There we go.
Ghost in a shell.
Yeah. So they leave. Much to her surprise. And then we get these scenes you guys are talking about, where they are, basically bartering for food for what they can. And there's just...
And 14-year-olds don't have good barter skills. I am sorry.
No.
Yeah. And so we get some straw, he gets some stuff, and they start, living their life out in here. Let's see here. Also should be noted, let's see if we can find it in here. When they come, he puts his mother's ashes, in a little alcove. Doesn't bury them, just sort of puts them to one side. It's like, dude. Yeah.
I would presume he would know that you're supposed to take them to a shrine to be interred.
He tells her, where is she? She's in a graveyard. He knows what to do there.
Yeah. But he just... he's holding on to some sense of normalcy in a odd, childlike way. Their mother is with them.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. No, absolutely. And so we get their life. We get Fireflies again. We get a kamikaze flying over.
Yeah.
It looks like a firefly. It's like, oh, there's a sign. There's a reference for you. And so they bring in the Fireflies.
You know what? This.
Please.
Go ahead. Sorry. Oh, I was going to say, this is the first time that I noticed watching, and I don't know how it escaped me. Fireflies on the inside of the net.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't saw the grave they make and all that stuff, but I didn't notice that they were on the inside, and I was just like, well, that's really creepy, foreboding, and I'm like going, oh no, I don't like that at all. I know what's going to happen, but I still don't like this at all.
And then, as we talked about before, the brilliance of this shot.
That framing.
Mm-hmm, framing is very much like the framing of the photo that you put up at a funeral with the two little black ribbons on the side of somebody who's passed away. So again, where Takahata is telling us what's happening here and what is going to happen in this movie, which we already kind of know, right? We already have an inkling. We even get the Firefly on the doll, which is like, okay, yeah. Foreboding. And then
when was the reveal? When did Setsuko say that the aunt told her
a little later on
what happened?
Yeah, a little
later on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When he gets caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have all these Fireflies going all over the place, and he imagines this naval review.
Oh God.
Yeah. Which would have been 39-ish, based on the years.
Yeah.
It was right before Setsuko. So this is before Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. This is, hey, we have the greatest military in the world. Everything's gonna be great. And he does this very interesting thing. He quotes a military march.
Yep.
And it's like, dude.
All the way with the fist pumping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get childish. That rah rah sis boom ba, being a soldier is great. It's like, what have you been watching? What have you been living for the past who knows how many months? It's just not connecting.
Yeah.
He's just not connecting.
Well, it's interesting is that that disconnect is the experience on land. The fleet is this glorious. When I was a kid, it was this thing that was untouchable. Mm-hmm. So on land, we're suffering, but Dad's out at sea and the fleet's doing its thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
and the fleet is on review under fireworks. You hear the Fireflies with the fireworks, so I'm on review.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, boy.
Yeah. And he would have been 9 at this point, right? So very impressionable, very overawed by it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the thing. And then the scene. They both lay down, and again, this is where you're like, oh, this is what's going on. He rolls over to her, puts a hand on her. She pushes him away because she's uncomfortable with somebody putting a hand on her back because of that. And then he kind of rolls away from her, like, oh, okay, fine. It's like, no, that's not what's going on here. But they're just talking past each other. They're just not seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there you go. And so here's the scene. So he goes out. She's burying the Fireflies, who don't live very long, and they kind of pulled them all into a net and made them all die. Kind of killed them. And so she buries them, and this is where Seda gets his first breakdown because he gets caught. And he realizes, all this protecting I've been doing, all this is just, she knew. And it's worth noting that Setsuko, she's sad, but she's dealing with it, right? Like, she's not throwing a tantrum. She's just kind of quietly processing it. And we see the box.
Yeah.
And the box is glowing.
Highlighted in red.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The mother's ghost is there. And we get this very interesting thing that happens because Takahata pans down to the box, and two fireflies, and then pans off to the left into darkness, into nothingness, which either is simply that, and the two fireflies going off into darkness, or is the ghost watching this? Like, does the ghost get this? Are the ghosts watching from a corner? Just we're not seeing it. I don't know. But again, I don't think that's a very subtle image there, unfortunately. Boys come in. They see what's going on here. They're kind of commenting on the situation. They see a ghost and run off. And I'm unclear on this scene because what's interesting about this scene is that Seita would not have known this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this comes across like it would be a scene from later on after both of them have passed away. And somebody stumbled across their stuff. But it can't be that because the candy tin is still there.
Yeah.
So I'm still unsure what this scene is kind of doing in the film, unless it's Seita imagining how other people see him. And he's imagining how these boys must react to seeing this odd little camp set up. I don't know.
Well, unless that he is the ghost that we've just seen go off into the dark corner.
Right.
Yeah.
But then that's, what I mean? You've got this interesting juxtaposition with that. So, yeah, it's.
Yeah, not sure. So now they go back and try to barter. The farmer's like, no. We're past that now, sadly.
Yeah.
And what does Zeta do? Steals. Literally the next thing he does is start stealing vegetables.
Poor choices.
Poor choices. Again, understandable choices, desperate choices, but not good. And here's where we meet the apparent soldier, somebody. We're not sure who, we're not sure what, but they're worried.
I'm wondering again, we see Seita talk to a constable who for some reason is dressed like an admiral.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what uniforms are.
Yeah.
That's why I think that dude is a member of the Kempeitai.
Yeah, must be.
That he's a member of the military secret police, and he's on the walk around to make sure that people are not doing anything. They're not being anti-patriotic. They're doing their part for the war, and he gives them good stern look. Oh.
Well, even Setsuko is like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Clearly she knows this guy's bad news.
Yeah.
So absolutely, there's that's going on there.
But you notice how Seda also, when the guy, the constable, not the guy on the bike, the constable who's dressed up in kind of the uniform, is protective of Seda.
Yeah.
And the guy, who catches him stealing, beats the crap out of him, basically. And the guy puts his hand on the sword, and he just goes, "No, I think the kid's had enough. He's done now. We're okay. You punished him. It's done." And then he offers Seda water, and you can tell that he's here's another adult who kind of sees the situation, is ready to go. You need some help. Why did you come in and have a drink of water? Talk to me. And, let me know what's going on, and maybe this is the time where we grab both of you and take you to that large building where the orphans are.
Yeah.
But he's clearly seeing something that's not right here, and this is where you start also to see Seda himself deteriorating.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah.
He's just going down, and so but again, so, as we're all pointing out, what does Seda do? No, thank you, I got it.
Yep.
Clearly, you don't, but he thinks he does.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's another opportunity gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he breaks down and cries again.
Right. And again, why? Because Setsuko knows what's going on. He got caught again. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She tells him, Auntie told me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, okay, so everything I've been doing right now, I just got my butt handed to me.
Yep.
And we're living in a cave in dirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, something's going on. And so, at this point, I probably would have been like, screw it, turned around and gone back to the guy and just get, yeah, I'll take that water, please. Anyway,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the way, here's my little sister who's dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's sick. I'm losing weight rapidly. We're still wearing rags, basically. So please, God, help us.
And she knows that she's sick.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
she's talking about how, she's got to go, but she's talking about diarrhea. She's not talking about just going around the alley doing number one. She's like, I can't stop.
Yeah.
Stomach hurts. I can't stop. And that's when again, he makes the wrong choice. Can you hold it till we get back?
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Find the adult. Even if it's the guy who beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure would look at the little girl and would have said, oh, okay, here. It's something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how does he react to this? He starts stealing stuff. And so he runs off and starts doing that. And here's the thing that I didn't notice. Well, I'll get to it later. And so he brings food, and now he's really caring for Setsuko. And he's doing what he can, and we all know it's too late. Like, it's clear what's going on here. And what's fascinating...
Well, did you notice when he's stealing, he's
happy.
Yes.
Gleeful.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like he goes from not knowing how to deal with firebombing and horrible things to what could be nothing less than reckless disregard. He just doesn't care. Running through, stealing stuff, having a high old time. He could be killed at any minute and leave Setsuko behind. But he is so unperfect shot. He is unfreaking hinged at this point. Nothing matters. The moral code's out the door, and it's just gleeful going for it. Like, dude, you lost your damn mind.
Well, yes, indeed. And he comes home, right, to Setsuko, and like, everything's great, and we can see her reaction to that. Yeah. She's like, sure. And again, here's where things start to get serious, where she just starts basically shutting down. He finally goes to the doctor, and like we were saying before, it's malnutrition. That's all it is. It's all they have to deal with.
And his reaction is, well, where's the shot?
Yeah.
Just fix it.
Yeah.
You're the adult, fix it. Where's the shot?
Yeah.
No. And the doctor just kind of looks at him and goes, no, you fix it. You have to do is feed her.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And he just doesn't connect.
Yeah, the days before Child Protective Services where the doctor said, wait in the waiting room and I'll get you that shot. Hi. Can you take these kids to some place to have them not starve to death? Thank you.
Yeah.
It's war.
And he does it, and he does that loud burst of, where am I supposed to get food? Right? Which, again, very reasonable question at this point, right? Like, food is not easy to get. It's really difficult. Whereupon he gets the shaved ice to give to her. And we progress on. And so here's where he goes back to finally get the rest of the money, which is now 3,000 yen. Yeah. As we were saying before, a lot of it's gone. I should also point out his last line to her here, if I recall correctly, is, "I'll never leave you again." And the next shot is him off at the bank.
Leaving her.
It's like, whereupon he finds the war's over. And it's over. And I love the way Takahata does this scene because it is so mundane. It is literally a desk at a bank. There's nothing dramatic about this moment. There's nothing, the camera isn't poised in anything. We're not even quite on center. It's just there are people over on this side doing things. It's this very everyday moment where the world falls in on him and he realizes, we lost and my dad's dead.
Which when you fleet review and they're talking about this, what about the fleet? It's like they mentioned that his father served on the Maya, which was a Takao class heavy cruiser.
Okay.
In 1944, it was part of a task force sent to Leyte in the Philippines to shore up the Japanese position in the Philippines. And it got sunk. Complement of 1,105 and on board. They were rescued by, here's the part that super sucks, the Musashi. Musashi was the sister battleship to the Yamato.
Yeah.
The Musashi was sunk 24 hours later. So out of the 1,105 men that went down with the Maya, they got rescued by the Musashi. 480 of them perished. So there was a 50-50 chance that Seita's dad survived, but he would have probably been caught in the Philippines, interred in the Philippines for the next year or two if he had survived. So time frame wise, there was no reasonable means for his dad to even have had a chance to get back before the inevitable occurred. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like, crap an A.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's where, and again, you look at through all these lenses, Seita has been holding on to this hope that, well, at least my dad's still alive, everything's fine there, so when dad comes home, it'll all be good. And again, what have you been living through for the past, umpteen months that you didn't put two and two together because you're 14? But yeah. It's rough. Until he gets home, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because Setsuko passes away.
I'm verklempt.
Yeah, no, totally. And of course, her last words are thank you, which is, and so she passes, and I'll see if I can get the shot. And from this point on, Seita does not have a single emotional reaction.
Yeah.
Seita's gone. He's lost it all. And we get again, Takahata, I'm gonna say it, I love the man, I love the film. Not subtle, the scene with the other family coming home and saying, oh, it's wonderful, oh, it's glad to be back, nothing's changed, and pan down to them.
Which the interesting part, if you notice, at first I thought this was literally, oh, these are people who are well off that have come back to their vacation house over this nice pond. It's they're returning. Look at the way they're dressed.
Yeah. Oh,
they're dressed in like 1950s kind of styled like poodle skirt kind of that shot.
Yeah.
That's like a 1950s style dress. That's not then. And it's just like, I was looking at that and I'm like, it didn't process at first. I'm like, nobody in any of the rest of this dressed like that. They had some form of kimono or they had some form of like sort of general sort of bland clothing. This is not a month after the war. This is some point we're seeing where it's like they're forward in time where this clothing, this vibrant color is a thing you could have then.
And again, this is all through Seita's mind. He had no way of seeing this. So
unless it was his ghost.
Right, exactly. Yeah, totally. And then we get this very important moment where Takahata is laying out kind of his point here. There are their mother's ashes sitting on a shelf. Nothing's been done with it. Also, the food's all been eaten, including the melon that he brought for Setsuko. He ate her food. Again, reasonable, rational, logical, but there's something about that makes the audience member go, ooh. And here's
that's sort of like going to a grave and eating the grave goods.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like you're consuming food for the dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is that's always struck me as eating to feed a never empty hole.
Yeah.
There's there's people who eat to try to fill a void of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that he was probably trying to do that, because what is he doing as Setsuka is being burned into ashes? He's eating.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the expression on his face is.
And you notice even before that, when he goes out stealing, he's filling his mouth, right? He's eating for himself, and obviously bringing stuff back for Setsuko. But this is
that one scene you showed where he popped open the rice container, and just shoveling it in as fast as he can, and then running through.
Yeah,
like
And this is one of the things that made me literally write down an expletive. We get all these scenes of Setsuko running around doing her things. Where's Seita? For all of him saying, I'm never going to be, he was never around. She was always having to, fend for herself and play by herself, because Seita was always out doing other stuff.
And that's, by the way, that is the scene that gets me each and every time I watch this freaking movie.
Yep.
The part where she makes the mud balls on the stick, and she looks at it, and she opens her mouth, and you're like, no,
don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, how about where she's using a branch to try and sweep the cave?
Yeah.
Like, and you're trying to home care the cave. Like,
and just being a child where she's just sees something, is distracted, and then she's running around with the blanket around her head, being cute and everything, and you're just like, oh, you jerk.
Yeah. And again, and this is why Takahata says this is not an anti-war film. This is, in a real sense, a celebration of these characters' lives. Like, I am trying to show you that in the midst of all of this tragedy, they did the best they could for themselves. And they had happiness. They had happy moments in all of this, despite what happened. And we're gonna fast forward past a lot of this, but she's alone. And so Seita's just checked out. Seita is gone. He has lost his humanity. It's over. Because he, kind of killed his sister. And again, I my gosh, Takahata, the framing of all this, I just love how he provides in this moment, these little images down here of the fire and Seita, and then the other stuff around to kind of draw your eye in and focus you on these things. Very simple, very effective, but providing that sense of distance, right? Seita is away from us now. And then the Fireflies show up. Symbolism.
I think it's also interesting when he's cremating his sister. Mm-hmm. If you wrap it all the way back, he had a relatively normal life. He had a relatively, normal experience at the house with his mom, with his sister, with the things around him, and fire took that away.
Yeah.
And his last vestige of connection to the life he had, he's the one that has to set the fire for it to go.
Yep.
And then he's done. Let's goes the
No, that's
the
brilliant.
last connection. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right. No, you nailed it. And this is where, and then the movie's ending here, because we get them. No, you're fine. because now they're back together again, kind of. Whereupon he looks at us, to remind us this is not just some random thing. Like, you're connected to this, you're part of this. This is a real thing, and we get the final shot, which is what Okada had to point out to me in his video. I had never noticed this, that the final shot is present day.
Yeah.
He is, in 1988, he is going through this, and he's remembering what's going on, and then he's going through his life with Setsuko, because what happened? He never buried her. He never buried his mother. He never gets buried. And so he has trapped them in a loop. They can never move on. They can never reincarnate. They are trapped there forever. Buddhist-wise, right? Yeah. And he just goes over this a billion times. Over and over and over and over again. Because of his choices, because of what he does. And again, being a 14-year-old boy, there's only so much you can expect of a kid.
Yeah.
And that is what Takahata leaves us with. And again, not subtle. Like back when, if you remember, I'm laughing because, oh my gosh, while they're showing this, they're playing Home Sweet Home.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was unsure if that was just, if there were some other lyrics to that or something that was going on there. No.
Right.
Like, you go to the credits and it's literally like, it is Home Sweet Home. That's the point he's making. It is rare to get a movie that is truly a tragedy, that doesn't turn into melodrama, that doesn't overstate its case, that kind of just presents this very simply and straightforwardly to you, but layers all this imagery on this.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The film is just all sorts of stuff going on. And it is tragic and it is sad. But it's also, and again, it's why he's making this film, because this is, this is a thing that happened. This is based on a semi-autobiographical short story written by a guy where his younger sister died as a result of this. This is kind of what he went through. And he said, like, what he described happening to Setsuko is what happened to his sister. Like, straight up carbon copy. Which is
there are
yeah.
There are pictures of actual photographs of the caves that he refers to, that the author refers to, and that are part of the storyboard. If you buy, I have it here on my DVD copy, but not all copies have this, where they show you the pictures of the caves that they used, and it were literal caves. It wasn't the man-made thing that they lived in. It was an actual cave, and they took pictures of it then, and of not then, back when they were using it, but it was probably like 40 or 50 years ago at this point. They're black and white pictures, and they were used for the storyboards, and then eventually were transmorphed into the caves that we see now, because it's just kind of cleaner. But they were just living in literal, you suggest, are these caves where it happened. And it's just, you look at that and you just kind of go, okay. I've never read by the way, I never read the story. Never read the book. But, you can only imagine, where are you in your life that's home, that becomes home?
Yeah.
Where are you? Where does the life lead you to get to that? And when you watch this for the first time, you're watching something that you don't get all the stuff that we're talking about on the first watch, on the first see through. As a matter of fact, like when we talked about it before you guys went on the onset, you brought up the video of Takahata are talking about this, and I'm like going, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I didn't know the other thing. And so, you watch it with that new lens, and you just see more stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just in there, and there's things that... So when you watch this out in Chatland, if you haven't seen this, or if you've only seen it once, part of the reason why this movie is such a great movie is because you really do need to watch it again. There's going to be more. You're going to realize more. There's going to be more to it. There's more background. It's worth looking at. It's worth taking, putting yourself out of the movie and then researching the movie itself.
Yeah.
But just go ahead.
And again, to be clear, we're not hating on anyone here. We're not saying that Seda or anyone realistically would have acted differently. These are all very realistic, normal behaviors, and they had terrible consequences, right? Yep. It's kind of the classic war thing, right?
And the most important thing to take away from this is that it's not just a true story of one person. This happened. Not just to him.
Yeah.
But this is what happened, and that's part of what makes it so freaking sad and tragic, is that it's just not one person. It's not one Seda. It's not one Setsuko. It's not one aunt. This is a thing that a generation remembers.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I can't think of a better way to end it than that. That is Grave of the Fireflies.
Yes, it was.
All right, everyone, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a little bit. We're going to grab some tissues, going to dry our eyes. We're going to recover a little bit, hopefully. Whew! And we will get to some news and some other stuff, because we just spent 2 hours talking about Grave of the Fireflies, because it deserves it. So I will see you back in a little bit.
I don't like crying in front of people. All right, back in a minute. All set.
All set.
And hello, everyone. We are back. We are talking on Saturday night about anime. It's been a couple weeks since we met. Exactly.
Imagine that.
So strange. Pay no attention to the Gundams behind the curtain. So, yeah, we're here to chat about anime. What have you guys been watching and reading and doing in the anime world the past week or two?
Well, I just got HBO Max, so I'm exploring the world of Crunchyroll. Starting to explore the world.
Nice.
So I just started that, and I picked up a guilty pleasure just because I wanted to. It's not anime related, but I got through the library Avengers comic book, telling the Thanos storyline. So I've been reading that a little bit, and like I said earlier, just doing a lot of cooking this week.
Ah, nice. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fat and happy.
There must be anime-themed cookie cutters.
Cookie cutters?
Somebody's got to find somebody. There must be people who make anime cookie cutters, right? Of like character face, character body, or something. Got to figure that out. Got to find some.
Somewhere in Akihabara, there's probably stuff tucked in the corner of somewhere that's cookie cutters for Japanese anime characters.
You know what would be great if there was instead of a gingerbread house, a gingerbread Gundam.
Ooh, I like it. Assemble a Gundam out of gingerbread.
I can't. Yeah.
Dang it, man. Dang it. Dang it.
If you had the sheets of gingerbread still hot and soft, you could use an X-Acto knife and cut out Gundam shapes. As long as you could sort of engineer how that would look. Wow.
They do that on the Great British Baking Show all the time. That's dang tempting. By the way, if you want anime-themed cookie cutters, no surprise, Etsy has you covered. Pikachu, Kodama from Princess Mononoke, Totoro, Goku.
There you go.
Hello Kitty, of course. So, there you go.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen, I think I saw I'm Standing on a Million Lives.
Okay, yep.
And nothing else.
Okay.
Because some terrible, terrible otakus introduced me to Genshin Impact. I have been playing Genshin Impact for days.
John's now level 60 with 28 characters.
Level 35 on my main, and level 30 on some of the others. But it's just I'm just grinding and scavenging for things and doing. I'm just I've lost my life. I'm not watching anything. It's wake up in the morning, do the things I have to do with the dogs. Then it's okay, now it's the afternoon time. I should watch some anime. Oh, Kuma 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 Bear. The next episode's on. Oh, but you know what? Maybe I should level a little bit more in Genshin.
Wait a minute.
No.
Over the bear puppets of Doom?
Yes!
Wow.
I know. I'm not a good human being.
Wow.
The question is, have you spent any literal money on it yet?
No.
Okay.
Not a nickel.
Okay.
And I won't. because I will either grind it to the point where I get what I need to have, or I will not have anything to do with it at all. I'm not spending any money on that.
Fair enough. That is wise. I spent a little bit of money on it. I did the wise spend. Folks are like, this is worth spending money on. I was like, okay, I'm spending money on this. Yes, that's worth it. I'm fine with that. Then I did the unwise spend, where I'm like, let me just spend some money to see if I can get better characters and spend it on basically wishes. And I got like a sword. And I was like, no, never again. Like, okay, no, that's, I now know not to do that in the future. So yeah, that's
you get some decent ones by just sort of grinding along. They're okay,
and
nothing particularly terrible. But.
And in fairness, everything I've seen in Genshin Impact, you can certainly spend money to level up, but it's not an MMO, so you're not like impacting anything else.
Right.
And you don't have to. You can absolutely play at a reasonable pace and get the same stuff. It's it's fine. It's pretty well done.
There are some fun. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and meanwhile, while you guys are playing that, I have to say that I've conquered the world about 5 times this week in Civilization 1.
Nice.
So
hey,
I gotta get my level of gaming in there.
Accomplishments, absolutely, yeah. And I've been doing my Genshin Impact as well. I think caught up on Kumu Bear.
Yeah. You're ahead of me. You're ahead of me now. Damn it.
Well, there may be like one episode that because I caught up like last week or something. So there's probably 1 or 2.
Okay.
I have thoughts on that show. What's her name? Gosh. Yuna. She's becoming kind of a jerk.
Infinite power corrupts.
Yeah. No, she's kind of steamrolling people with her requests and things. And I'm not sure if the show is ever going to deal with it, or if it's just kind of like, well, in the interest of time, right? She's going to suggest a thing and it's going to happen. But like, she kind of staffed a restaurant with orphaned children.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that. Wearing, of course,
this is a fantasy world. Child labor is not a thing. So.
Yeah. But they're already doing child labor. Like there's an episode where they started doing child labor so they can. I don't know.
Well, it's farm labor. Farm labor is totally different.
Exactly. Yes. No, still adorable and cute.
They're never going to deal with it, Brent. There's just not. There's literally like a handful. There's like what 2 or 3 episodes left.
Yeah,
it's only going to be 12, maybe 13 if they do a beach episode. So they're not going to deal with it. They're just going to walk right by this and be like, "Oh, it's cute, it's fun, it's sweet. Nobody cares."
Yeah, I completely agree. And then
have you guys seen?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask. Have you guys seen Team 4-Star dub of Dragon Ball Z?
Nope.
No, you haven't. It's good for a laugh.
Okay.
Just leave it at that. Good for a laugh. The guy who does Vegeta is really funny.
And I don't think I mentioned I'm like 2/3 of the way through The Day I Became a God.
Okay. Yeah, I still haven't started that because I'm waiting for you to hint that the drop at the end is going to be terrible.
I'm paused because I need to get to it to end so I can watch the last like 4 episodes straight through, because I know there's going to be an incredible like cliffhanger, and I'm going to be in pain for 7 days until I find out what's going on. So I'm just gonna wait and let it all out so I can just throw it on an afternoon, have my cry, and be done with it.
You're still convinced that it's truly it's not like a misdirect to be like, oh, it's gonna have a tragic ending. Be like, no, misdirect, happy ending.
We already have the tragedy. We already have the structure of what's going on.
Okay.
I think I know how the world is going to end. They're kind of telegraphing that already, and it's gonna hurt. So we'll see where it goes. Knowing Angel Beats, I am confident that it will be sad but ultimately uplifting, right? Like
Mm.
it will be very bittersweet.
And definitely give us the heads up if we need to watch the credits, post credits.
Yes.
Oh, I am watching all the.
Because
He's already done it once.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And he's already done it once in the show
Thank you for that
where there was a post credit scene in like episode 6 where it's like, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, he's definitely doing that. So we'll see. But yeah, there's already been a rather controversial sequence, like episode 6 or 7 or something, where it's like, oh, that's serious, and that character is not acting in the way they should given what's going on. Ooh. So, yep, that's going to be a fun one.
Damn, I was hoping for a happy comedy ending. Damn it.
I mean, it is until episode 7. Or whatever it is. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, the restaurant rescue episode is hilarious, if nothing else. Like, just, you know, it might be one of those things where it's like, okay, watch until this point. And then you're good, right? You've seen all the cute, funny, happy stuff, and you can just move on.
Walk away smiling and just like do the fanfic.
Exactly.
Where it ends out just exactly like, oh, they are all happily ever after, everything's great. Woo.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Sweet. Yeah, no. I can give you all sort of slightly more spoilery hints later on if need be, but otherwise, yeah, we'll see. And then Grave of the Fireflies, because we hate ourselves. Yeah, that's
we like good films.
Absolutely.
Analysis.
Also read a bit more of Spy Family, which is great.
Oh.
We are introduced to the telepathic daughter, spy father, assassin mother, all living together, can't tell anyone what's going on. We've now been introduced to the assassin mother's little brother, who is an SS agent, basically. He is secret police, tortures people for a living, but of course can't tell anyone about that, can't tell his sister about that, no one else can know. So that's all in it now as well.
That's just the awkward dinner table.
Yeah, exactly.
Or no conversation. No conversation at all. You don't know what you're going to tell.
How was work today? Well, I had to pull a teeth out of one guy today and slap another guy around. But, it's fine.
But no, he can't let anyone know about this because, that would hurt his sister and all. Yeah. So many plots weaving. And, of course, who is his number one target? The spy. Father. Right, exactly. Yes, that's the one guy he's trying to take down. Yeah. I will also say one of the things I really like about this that they've set up, which is not a spoiler. So basically, the spy is trying to get access to this, the father of one of the kids at this boarding school, and so the daughter is going to the boarding school, so he has access to the boarding school, so you're going to get there to meet this, to find this guy. And so what they've established is that at the school, you have these like stars and demerits that you can get based on your behavior, on extraordinary behavior. If you get a certain number of demerits, you get kicked out. If you get a certain number of these stars, you're put into this like elite group. And it's this elite group that this other kid is in. So Anya not only has to be, brilliant private school kid, she also has to excel in all these things while reading everyone's minds and realizing what's going on and parsing through all that stuff and dealing with the stress of like hearing the minds of her spy father talk about how important this is. And so she's stressing out. But then the idea is basically they have to teach Anya how to be a good kid. How to, they have to show her ways of excelling, both in school and also kind of in life to be unusual, which makes them be a better family. Because now they're all thinking of ways of kind of pushing her in different things and like, okay, well, we can't just force feed her information the entire time, that'll exhaust her. How do we make her a really awesome human being? So there's this lovely, through line in it of like they're all becoming better human beings and closer as a family as a result of this completely insane situation.
Yeah. Being awful
I'm just
people trying
imagining
to be good people. Like,
I'm I'm just imagining the therapy bills with whoever survives.
Oh, God.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's amazing. I am not Jabez. I am not doing Right Stuff's holiday sale because I'm trying not to buy more anime. And I've just got so much stuff. But now that you said that, I'll probably go over there and look and see, because I think there are 1 or 2 Gundam series on Blu-ray that I may have to get for posterity. But we'll see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could head to the Studio Ghibli store and buy stuff there. The cat returns.
No! Do not tempt me. Do not tempt me.
Oh
no!
Oh.
Any more than
we've already been on that ride once.
I am so. There's like a 50-50 chance you'll see a Baron behind me in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm really tempted by that. Oh.
Sad you found that store, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't need to retire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can retire with your things. They'll be all around you.
That's how that works. Did you hear that?
Kids, crack is cheaper.
Reasons I don't know, the YouTube stream, I'm like way behind where you guys are. I don't know.
I am too.
I don't know why.
As am I.
There we are.
Just
a moment. I had something different set up before. And so we're going to try something different here. And then we'll be good to go.
A little song, a little dance.
There we go.
Head on a
exactly.
Little lamp.
What was... Gosh. I was going back through old Batman scenes. Anyway. Boy, that's a whole nother topic. All right. Welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending December 19th, 2020. It has been 2 weeks since we did the news, and so instead of doing the typical sort of read-through, we're just going to talk about some of the news of the last 2 weeks. And boy, has there been news the last 2 weeks. We're going to have to lead with this that happened a couple of weeks ago. Yes, that is right. You read that correctly. Funimation has announced they are acquiring Crunchyroll for a cool $1.175 billion US. $1 billion. To be paid in cash at closing. No stock transfer, none of that stuff. Pure money. For acquiring Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll noted it now has 3 million subscribers and 90 million registered users, so user accounts on the system, with 3 million paying subscribers. We do know that up until this point, Sony and Crunchyroll have been in talks. They were owned by AT&T, or have been owned by AT&T, and they were offered $1.5 billion for it, and Funimation basically said, whoa. They were interested in spending up to $1 billion. Then they were offered 1.5, and it looked like they settled on 1.175 billion. Obviously, there are a few more hurdles to jump through, but yes, that is a thing that's going to happen. Apparently, one Funimation to rule them all.
And it's not even a stock exchange. I mean, that's the unprecedented part. It's like, this is anime streaming. This is, all the platform that Crunchyroll has built over time, from a sort of shady app to what they are today. To get $1 billion in cash. cash.
Yeah.
And the fact, where did the negotiators get going? Okay, this is gonna be a cash transaction, and everyone just went, okay, sure, because that's.
Yeah.
In this briefcase here, I have money. Will you accept it? Sure. Is it dirty money? Don't ask questions.
No, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
Ignore the blood. Go ahead.
No. All right, let's not cast aspersions on Funimation here.
Well, the question in my mind is, given that Funimation, they started a distribution, didn't they?
Yeah.
So licensing, distribution, etc.
Yeah.
Does the acquisition of Crunchyroll now give them the ability to shut off Funimation streaming and say, we're done?
Mm-hmm.
We started doing licensing and all this other stuff, and we just we got into this. And now that we have Crunchyroll, we can dump all of the catalog, everything onto you guys. You guys don't license anything. Don't worry about anything. Mm-hmm. We'll handle all the back house work. You just stream and you manage the platform.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because that would seem like
that's what you say the smartest thing to do.
Yeah,
fairly decent, rather than competing, trying to cut each other's throats and stuff.
And we were talking about this on the Discord. The other thing about this is that Japanese businesses are famously stereotypically conservative. Not all, but commonly. Right. And they really like working with established businesses that are kind of known quantities. Having an industry that is more consolidated might be a lot more attractive to those interests. Of saying, okay, there is one funny roll. They should call it that. That we work with. That we work with. They have everything. We know that they have all the resources, all this stuff, and so we can kind of put our anime in their laps with confidence. Compared to a somewhat more fractured industry. So that could also be one of the reasons behind it is let's just consolidate. And also, like, Crunchyroll is investing a lot in original series. And I can see Funimation wanting to get in on that, of saying, oh, that has so much profit potential that could really do nice things in future. Which I think is why they're valuing it at $1 billion.
Just amazing.
Absolutely amazing. And in fairness, like, again, 3 million paying subscribers is nothing to sneeze at. Like, they clearly have revenue. Things are happening there. But it's hard to say.
It's good to see when a rough, scrappy little app with questionable background goes legit and becomes a big-time player.
Yep.
Good on him.
So it is no longer you should be watching, it is you will be watching at Funimation. Pretty much. So obviously more to come on that as we hear more details about apparently anime being worth some money. Speaking of, we have speaking of anime projects, Mamoru Hosoda has announced his next film that is going to be called Bell in English, but as is so typical with these things, the Japanese title is Ryu to Sobakasu no Hime, which is literally the Princess of Dragons and Freckles, possibly my favorite title of all time. It'll be opening in Japan this summer, so not too long to wait. It is the film will be about an online world that is ever evolving, which has 5 billion registered users, so basically Facebook. And apparently, and the announcement mentions like Summer Wars and Digimon. Was it Children's War Game? Both Mamoru Hosoda films with these themes of online worlds and dealing with things and fighting threats to online worlds and such. So kind of going back to the well in that sense. Have you guys? What Hosoda films have you guys seen? What exposure do you have to this man's oeuvre?
Summer Wars.
There we go.
I liked, so I don't know, if it's going to be somewhat like that. I don't know what Hosoda things I've seen, but if I got some kind of idea off of Summer Wars, you know what I mean? that would be interesting.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. I mean,
yeah,
I'll be curious to see, because when Phil and I sat down and watched Summer Wars, I was floored.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's like that, I'll be floored by whatever this is. So Digimon Children's War, I no clue.
This is the second Digimon film, but they were like half-hour movies, basically. Released in theaters. If you've seen Digimon the movie, which who hasn't, that was basically the first 3 Digimon movies all smashed up into one rather confusing film. So the middle segment of that, for those out there who've seen that is Children's War Game.
So you've seen Summer Wars, you've seen this. Does that say, dropping those names, does that give you a clue where this is going to go?
Oh yeah, it's probably going to be it's going to be Summer Wars basically, but a different real world plot. But I'm sure it's going to be, here's this big digital world, everyone's connecting all together, there's a threat, we have to deal with it. And we'll see what that is. What I like about Hosoda is that he's always been smart when dealing with those things and making them abstract, where he's not trying to represent what an actual online world would be like to interact with. It's not, here's the VR interface, it's just, we go in and we have this completely abstract visual representation of everything to get to the themes of connection and relationship and so forth and so on. So yeah, I'm hopeful. His films are wonderful. He might be the next Hayao Miyazaki if we choose to use that sort of comparison. But
really, what have I seen?
I don't know.
What have I seen by him?
Mirai, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, The Boy and the Beast.
Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
Okay, that was his first film. The Boy and the Beast, Wolf's Children, and
I do want to see that one though.
Yeah, they're all wonderful. Wolf's Children is the saddest one. Be aware.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all very much family fantasy films. So very much in that sort of Studio Ghibli slot.
Yeah. But I liked the way that they handled the girl who leapt through time with consequences that she faces.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For a first film, that is a dang fine outing. That's an impressive piece of work. So yeah, that's I'm looking forward to it, and in like 6 months, that's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of giant media conglomerates from the previous stories, Disney has announced a new project called Star Wars Visions, with a logo straight out of 1996. It is an original series of short anime films set in the Star Wars universe. They've attached the world's best Japanese anime creators. It'll launch next year. That's all we know, basically. But I get the sense that somebody saw Animatrix and said, "Do that, more of that. That'll work." Who knows?
That's a dump truck full of money. Make it happen.
Exactly.
So before I get into this, because if you heard me going, yep, I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Anyway, somebody in Chatland asked about, is HBO Max worth, and I just wanted to address that real quick.
Yeah.
I just signed up for it a couple days ago, actually, when it was available on Roku, so it's a little buggy right now. So if you want to wait like a week or two before everything gets kind of settled down with everybody, buying into it and the platform working. It kind of depends on what you're looking for. It has a lot of good stuff on it with like Turner Classic Movies, DC stuff on there, regular HBO, the stuff that they do themselves, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. The Crunchyroll, as I alluded before, is on there, but it is a limited format that might grow. I have a feeling that a lot of this stuff is going to grow. So to the person who asked if HBO Max is worth it, I think the potential is definitely there, but just give it a week before it's for all the bugs to work out. So that'll be fun. Yeah. As far as the Star Wars stuff is, of course, for those of us who are Star Wars geeks, Mandalorian just finished up, and the saga of Baby Yoda is more or less finished. But there is a lot of things coming out on related to Star Wars, and I'm kind of wondering if this anime thing is related to. And they showed it a couple times at Otakon at the fan subs, late at night, 11 o'clock, which is the TIE Fighter.
Yes.
It's about 7 minutes long, which is actually has been remastered, and it's actually really, really good. So I'm kind of wondering if it's going to be along those lines, and if it is, then it actually really should be pretty cool.
So, for context, an independent animator made this like 7-minute TIE Fighter short film that's entirely animated, 2D animated, gorgeously done. He actually did an earlier one, which was a Sega Genesis fighting game, like sequence.
That's right, yeah.
So it's like the opening sequence, and then characters sort of teleport in and then walk around fighting mummies and things. It's the kind of picture perfect recreation of like a Sega Genesis game. And they did this TIE Fighter thing, which is just mind blowing.
And there's also out there on YouTube 10-minute shorts retelling of the first three. Well, was it 4, 5, and 6 of
5 and 6, yeah.
of Star Wars, but done in an anime format. It's very condensed. It's only about 10 minutes per. But maybe it might be connected to that as well.
Yeah. If nothing else, it's really interesting in here seeing Disney basically say, "What's hot? Oh, anime." Like basically,
yeah.
That's kind of the appeal is, people will show up for this anime thing. Yes, they will. So
that headline next year: Disney pays $2.8 billion for Funny Roll. Here we go.
And
now Disney owns anime and everything else.
Yep. It'll. Oh, now I'm depressed. Speaking of
healthy and happy.
Speaking of massive internet corporate overlords, Netflix has revealed that this is actually rather interesting. Anime viewership was up over 100% in the United States on its platform this year. You might wonder what caused that. What was the big anime release on Netflix this year that caused everyone to just tune in and watch it? It's Pokemon. It's always Pokemon. It's not always Pokemon, but Pokemon's one of the big drivers. The Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution film was the most watched anime title this year. I also said that Blood of Zeus was also highly watched on Netflix in 2020. Now, what's also intrigued me is that according to Vice President of Content at Netflix India, Monica Shergill, anime viewership also doubled across Asia in 2020. So it's not just the US tuning in, it's also that Asian continent, which has a lot of people in it. They are also tuning in for the Japanimation, which I think is pretty cool.
Wow, that is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't think you were going to say Mugen Train, though.
Yeah, I know.
I was waiting for you to be like...
Not on Netflix yet. When Netflix,
here we go.
When it comes on Netflix, that's when it's going to happen. Yeah.
You can still watch Demon Slayer. Is that on Netflix? I don't think...
No, I think that's a Funimation,
that probably is. Because that could drive that people are hearing about Mugen Train. They're watching, Demon Slayer, and they're like, oh yeah, we're getting ready for this. Be like, okay, that would drive it.
Yep. Yeah. And we have more Mugen Train story this year, tonight.
It's on Hulu if anybody cares.
On Hulu. Okay, fair enough.
Jeez. Jeez.
Yeah, I think it's on Funimation as well. Last I checked, but I'm not sure. Because here's the thing, Netflix has been investing in anime heavily for a long time, and there's been a lot of questions as how well has that bet worked out for them. Sure people are watching it, and that's fine, and they still keep funding it, and that's fine. But I think this is the piece of evidence where they finally revealed, yes, like there has been an impact. It is clear. It's working. It's kind of funny though that it's not Beastars. Right, it's not any of the Netflix original stuff. It's Pokemon, which not too surprising, but that is kind of the reality there.
Pokemon.
Exactly. Kind of an odd news story, but I really wanted to cover this because I just think it's really, really fun. The Sony Life Insurance Company, yes, the Sony Life Insurance Company, released earlier its yearly data report on the various prefectures of Japan. There are 47 of them. They surveyed them a bunch of stuff, including what is your favorite anime that is set in your prefecture? Because it's Japan, and they ask questions like this. And so Futaba.net, the pop culture website, released the survey results. The ones that sort of leap out at me. Tokyo's favorite anime set in Tokyo is Sazai-san. Okay, sure. Definitely a cultural thing. Kyoto picked Sound Euphonium.
Oh.
You know, which I can understand that. Okayama is rightly proud of being the home place of Tenchi Muyo. Hiroshima chose In This Corner of the World, which is correct.
Oh.
Wow. Can't think of a better choice than that one. Let's see here. What was the other notable ones? Yamanashi picked Laid Back Camp, which again, correct.
Yeah.
Well done. And Ibaraki, of course, Girls in Panzer, for what it is that is known for. There's some other fun ones. I did not realize only yesterday was set in Yamagata Prefecture, and so they're very proud of that. Kanagawa chose Slam Dunk. Nagano chose Summer Wars. Speaking of that, Gifu chose Your Name, because I cannot imagine what the tourist industry got out of Your Name. Must have been money up the wazoo. What was the other interesting one? Kumamoto, of course, that's my Book of Friends. And my favorite is that Gunma chose You Don't Know Gunma Yet, which is a partial parody tourism anime, because the whole premise of the anime is that everyone keeps warning the main character not to go to Gunma because of what of an hole it is. So that's hilarious that they chose that as their favorite anime set in Gunma. Granted, that's probably the only anime set in Gunma Prefecture. But, you know, a fun thing.
Where's Detective Conan set?
Oh, that's a great question. It's got to be everywhere, right?
Because there was an anime, wasn't Tonikawa. There was an anime I saw recently where they stopped at the train station somewhere, and they were like, in the anime, about something different. They go to a train station or an airport, and there's Detective Conan in the airport. And then it's all these little... And I was like, no, this is not real. And wherever it was, I don't remember. I looked it up. I'm like, oh my god, yeah, their airport has that. It's like all Detective Conan stuff everywhere. And it's like you can. There's a museum in town that's all Detective Conan stuff. And I'm like, I'll be damned.
I just looked it up. It is set in a combination of real locations in Japan and fictional locations based on detective novels that influenced the series. It is located in Baika City, which is apparently not a real city, but is sort of a pastiche of various real-world locations. Okay. And then, of course, they visit a lot of actual physical locations in the series. So it's interesting. I did not know that. Now we know. And knowing's half the battle.
And knowing's half the battle. Kojo.
All right, moving along. So yeah, you're seeing this right. When you think of VTuber, what do you think of? Yeah, you think of School Days. So the heroine of School Days is going to debut as a virtual YouTuber on Christmas Eve. Because again, when you think of Christmas, you think of School Days. More information will be revealed at a later date. Folks asked whether this was a temporary thing, and they said they're sort of still figuring that out, whether this will be a permanent thing or just a temporary thing. The reason Christmas Eve, in fairness, is that there is a streaming service in Japan called Abema TV. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And they have a tradition of airing School Days back to back to back to back on Christmas Eve. So there's marathon School Days on Christmas Eve, because why wouldn't you do that? And so this sort of coincides with the 5th year of the School Days Marathon on Abema TV. I just don't even know where to begin on this one.
Why would you show that back to back to back? That show on Christmas Eve? What? Murder's fun?
I guess.
No, I'm just like, I'm at a loss for that. There's a lot of good, funny Christmas episodes, single episodes, not like that series.
Yeah.
Not a good choice. Not a good choice.
It's weird, but it's remarkable. Like, it becomes a news story, right?
Yeah, it does.
Like, that's how to get people to watch, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, news story. So does running naked down the middle of a big street in a city.
Well,
Nobody else is doing it. Why would the hell would these people do this thing? Like, it's school days. God, why?
And this is what makes me interested in it, because you can go two routes with this. You can either just make her a VTuber. She is just a personality and she's playing video games or whatever, right? Or you can lean in hard. And, like, on every stream, like, at some point in the middle of the stream, she just goes,
Yeah.
and then just goes on with things, I don't know.
Now, explain to me, how does a VTuber work? And we talked a little bit about this before. They're not independent things. They're not like Miku.
Correct.
They're a personification of a actual YouTube personality, or is it divorced even from that?
VTuber software is a 3D model of an anime character that is set up to react to a webcam, so that the motions on the webcam are mapped to the 3D model. So the 3D model is projected is displayed on a screen, and then the webcam maps to a human being's behavior. Now, the complexity there is that there are people who debut as VTubers having no YouTube experience. They are simply the person behind that VTuber, model. So in a sense, that VTuber is the YouTube personality. There's no other person who is now taking on that VTuber role.
And it's not like independent kind of Siri thing where it just responds to stuff and there's nothing really kind of going on behind it. You are sitting there making it do its thing.
Correct. There's a human controlling it.
As her.
Right.
So, I mean, they got to be doing it off a script or something like that, because you can't have that person like go completely off the reservation with their presentation of this character.
Well, and that's the interesting thing, because I'm sure it's not the voice actress.
Yeah.
Right? So they must have somebody doing it. Now, you can also do, obviously, you can manipulate your voice through it.
Right.
And you could also technically have, like, pre-recorded sounds, if you wanted to do that.
Right.
But you can't do that for, obviously, everything. So, I don't know. Digital puppet. Thank you, Jay. It's a perfect description of it. It's a digital puppet.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm intrigued. But VTubers are really taking off in popularity. They're certainly successful in that sense. So I'll be honest. The more we talk about it, the more this sounds like a marketing gimmick for the company.
You'll have,
and they'll do it, and it'll get some buzz. And then the next time they announce a new, adult visual novel, it's the company that did that weird School Days thing, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, we talked a little bit this at the onset about, there is a little short. I don't know what you consider an anime or not, but it's a collection of VTubers together, in a shared space, and doing stuff. But as we discussed it then, I still don't get why is that. Why are you doing this? Why is this a thing?
Well,
for a lot of because of who I am, I don't know.
Well, a lot of folks are embarrassed to be seen on camera.
Right.
Also, in some ways, it can be simpler to manage all of the different bits and pieces of a stream when you're not also on stream, and it's all one big digital interface, basically. And so you can sort of have things coming in and out, and you can have a chat on the side and all that stuff. And you're kind of looking at all that as opposed to paying attention to your performance, so to speak. So that has some advantages. I know there's one VTuber that
digital puppet acts for you,
right?
So you don't have to act.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
I know that there's one VTuber that does a lot of like anime history stuff, and so it's really more lectures and then showing slides and putting up text and doing drawings and so forth. And so if there's a cute girl sitting in the corner talking, that looks better than just somebody who is sitting in the corner, thinking about how to draw and how to do all that kind of stuff, right? So the visuals are kind of
when I first put up my channel, these many years ago, that if VTuber was available back then, that's probably something I would have done, because I didn't put my face onto the channel for a very long time. And I did actually what Brent described, which was, just like a lot of different pictures and things and coming off, and you would just hear my voice, and that would be it. But this is more of a thing for, like if it was back then, this would be actual interesting person to look at who's also doing things, and you can do more manipulation of what you're doing to keep interest in. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
yeah.
I gotcha.
So we'll see. It certainly got us talking. Who knows?
Yes. Any news is good news.
Also this week, a few news stories that we might talk about, we might not, but just wanted to at least mention in passing. First, rather seriously, prosecutors have officially indicted the suspect of the Kyoto Animation fire. He was being the suspect is being indicted on charges of murder, attempted murder, arson, breaking and entering, and violating the firearms and sword control law. And apparently medical experts have determined that the suspect is likely to be mentally competent to stand trial.
So he's gonna get it in the neck.
Yeah. So this is not going to end well for him, quite likely. They're taking it very seriously, as well they should. The final Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 wrapped later a few days ago. They posted on Twitter that all compositing and editing is completed for Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time. And so it is moving along. They finished recording dialogue, including retakes, on November 19th. So certainly chugging along and making progress. The film is currently planning to open on January 23rd after a delay due to, of course, COVID-19. So we are close to the final Evangelion film, and I say that because the poster says bye-bye all of Evangelion on it. So that's kind of a hit. Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm with you.
Except for the live stage show, the ice show,
right.
And the musical.
Yes.
Once they launch those, then that'll be the end of the whole franchise.
Well, and let's not forget, they literally made a movie whose name is The End of Evangelion 20 years ago. So, just saying.
The End of Evangelion. This time we're serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Will it beat Mugen Train, though?
Ooh.
I would take that bet because I'm going to believe Mugen Train will steamroll the crap out of that. There's no stopping Mugen
Interesting. Eva is such a. I would love to look into the performance of the other Eva movies, because I get the sense that it's going to be hard for Eva to have that kind of thing, and we'll have a story about that a little later on about why that might not be the case, but we'll find out. But yeah, that's a good one. Dragon Quest is getting a theme park, technically an island. An attraction area called Dragon Quest Island at a theme park in Japan, opening in spring of 2021. It'll recreate the world across 8,000 square meters. Pretty cool. There is a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho series coming to Netflix because the world asked for that, apparently. The next creation by the creators of Death Note and Bakuman, called Platinum End, is getting a TV anime series in fall of 2021. So look forward to that. The Record of Ragnarok manga is also getting an anime. The series, I'm going to have to get the title of exactly here. A Harem in an Alternate World Dungeon is getting an anime series as well, light novel series. And yes, if you heard that title, that's exactly what it is. To absolutely no one's surprise, I'm just waiting to hear people faint when they hear this. There's a new Beyblade anime coming in 2021. I know, shocker. There's also an anime adaptation of Chainsaw Man, which is a sort of bloody, gory manga series, very over the top, kind of gory thing about a essentially Edward Chainsaw Hands is the premise there, if you can imagine that.
I've been seeing a lot of like the cover imagery from whatever the manga or whatever it is, where instead of what is it, no gun life, the guy has a revolver for a head,
or for a head,
chainsaw. Yeah. Literally, his skull is the chainsaw. That's the image I keep seeing, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, his skull is this sort of bird beak chainsaw thing, and then he has chainsaws on his arms.
Yeah, it's just like, this is just insanity, and it's supposed to be quite gory. So okay, there we go. This will be an interesting thing.
Yeah, I checked out some of the reviews on Amazon, which asterisk, and it seemed to be like if you like a somewhat ridiculous, over the top, gory shonen-y kind of action thing, that's exactly what this is. Like it gives you precisely that. So sounds like fun.
It's done by MAPPA, so it'll be interesting.
Should definitely be interesting.
Interesting presentation.
I think I'll take that over the live action Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm still burned by the live action Death Note on Netflix. I still.
I don't know how you do Yu Yu Hakusho live action series.
Right.
Ghost Whisperer with had Jennifer Love Hewitt. I think that was what it was.
Okay.
Back 20 some odd years ago. And she sees like spirits, and she helps them resolve their issues in the live world. All I can envision is doing Yu Yu Hakusho that way, and being like, spirit detectives. Oh no.
I just want to see how they're going to make those characters. I mean, those are character designs of a time past.
Kuwabara.
Yeah.
Kuwabara. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's who gets to wear that wig?
Yeah.
Who gets to wear that wig?
I'm very curious. Not the only anime adaptation, though. There's an adaptation coming of Love of Kill, the manga, which is basically about a male assassin who is contracted to kill a female assassin, but guess what? They fall in love.
Oh.
So that is coming.
Didn't we already have this movie with Brad Pitt?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, go figure that out.
So should be interesting. Not sure that is in Monthly Comic Gene, which is, I don't even know what genre that is. I don't know. Interesting. So that magazine also published The Children Who Came from Deep Below, which sounds vaguely familiar. Double Gauge, Malicious Code, Mikagura School Suite, and Nirvana. Don't know.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it's going to be like seinen-y or shoujo-y. I've got no idea. Also, not the only anime announcement. The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window is also getting an anime announcement. That is a Boys Love mystery manga. Speaking of manga, we're getting a new Cells at Work volume of manga. First time in 3.5 years, we're getting a new volume of Cells at Work, which is awesome. And finally, Oricon Monitor Research specifically, carried out an internet poll about Demon Slayer, which revealed that over 90% of respondents are familiar with Demon Slayer. Like, they know what it is in Japan. That is a thing across gender, across age. In fact, and this is the thing that sort of caught my attention, pretty much every quote they have from somebody talking about Demon Slayer is from somebody like 30 or over. Woman in her 30s said, quote, "I would never have thought that at my age I would have a conversation about anime with my mother, who is in her 60s," end quote. Woman in her 40s said it was the first time she, her spouse, and their child watch a film together in the cinema. And a man in his 60s said he was enjoying the series while letting his son explain it to him. But you have other folks. A man in his 30s remarked that his 2-year-old daughter knows how to say Kinmetsu no Yaiba, which there we go. So the point being that the series does seem to have a very mainstream appeal. A lot of folks in Japan are watching it sort of across generations. It's definitely working there. Woman in her 30s says that when going to karaoke, people of every age group will want to sing the theme songs to Demon Slayer. So this was 3,800 members of the Oricon Monitor Research, folks ranging in age from teens to their 60s in late November. They were part of that poll. So the Mugen train keeps on chugging.
Yes, it does.
Damn.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it just, we know that it's generated so much buzz, just it keeps it buzzing.
Yeah.
So I have to, in Japan itself, you just can imagine that you've got people who are who don't even know anything about it other than to ask the question, which means they're talking about it, which means they're going on the internet, which means they're like, maybe I'll go see it because just everybody keeps talking about it.
Yep.
And it just keeps going. Like, damn.
Yeah. It never ends.
Can you just imagine being that one person in Japan a year from now who just goes, Mugen Train, what? Where have you been living?
I'm looking for the Downtown Express train.
That cave over there?
Yeah, pretty much.
No service, no cell phone, nothing.
That said,
a Buddhist temple in the mountains, and I just prayed all day.
Right. Now, there is sort of a twist to all this, though. There's a second survey conducted earlier on where they asked elementary school children who they respect more, their parents or Tanjiro from Demon Slayer, and Tanjiro won out. Oh! So, just saying, parents might want to have some conversations with your kids before and or after watching Mugen Train about respect. So, yeah.
Oh, you realize, of course, right now, somebody at some ministry in Japan is sitting making a broad slate of PSAs that feature Mugen Train characters. Hey, kids, don't litter. Hey, kids, pay attention to your parents. Like,
Tanjiro the bear.
Exactly. It's all going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
My gosh, Demon Slayer. I just don't even know. I can't even. But pretty awesome. Let's be honest. Yes, that's the news this week. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, Cells at Work is getting more print time, and we have Cells at Work, the second season's
That's
coming.
Right.
Like,
That's very true.
Right.
Geez, this is good.
Yeah, give me more of that, please.
Yes.
And it sounds like the new series is going to be different characters.
Yeah.
So looking forward to see
The key visuals. White blood cell is a female.
Okay.
Red blood cell is a male, and I think the platelet chans are all platelet kun.
Oh, cool.
I think that was the key visual I saw in the background, that they were all like grades elementary school boys versus elementary school girls.
Interesting, because there are definitely boys in there are definitely boy platelets. Huh.
But
So
most of like the little Nendoroid, at least I have, and there's a few others that they show them up front as girls. So in crowd scenes, I can't tell who anybody is from others. I just know the one little blonde platelet that's always like the lead girl.
The lead girl, absolutely.
And they did not feature her in the platelet or Kun's in the background of the new key visual. So it's like, okay, I get, you're basically just swapping everybody.
Yeah. Exactly.
So giving new characters to love. Yay.
Yep.
I can't wait to see the killer T cells.
Yeah.
They're all the dudes in the black t-shirts and like really, oh man, like I can't wait to see them all swapped. Like it's gonna be cool. Pulling out a knife and just like eliminating viruses covered in gore, and there are a bunch of like buff women. You're like, damn, that'd be cool.
We already have the maze, right? Whatever they are. Yeah, you know, it works.
Macrophage. Yeah.
Macrophage, that's right. Absolutely. I will talk a little bit about something I like, if I can. I got a weird one today. I got one that, if any of you are familiar with this, I will be impressed. It's a very much an unusual one. I'm here to talk to you today about Moshidora. This is Brent's Anime Review Corner, where I just talk about anime that I like. This is Moshidora. It's an anime about a high school girl who is making a promise to her friend who's in a hospital. Her friend has always wanted to manage a baseball team. She just loves baseball. And she can't play baseball very well, but she wants to manage a baseball team. So her friend, who you see here, goes to a bookstore to find a book about how to manage a baseball team. And she picks out a book on management. Not that kind of management. So yes, this 16-year-old girl picks up a book on management. She picks up Peter Drucker's book, Management, and tries to use that to manage a baseball team. And this is the girl in the hospital. The thing is, here's the thing. Like, this is a real thing. This Drucker's book on management is actually a real thing. This is not simply a baseball anime. This is literally a baseball anime that is using the medium of baseball anime to teach you how to apply the lessons of Peter Drucker's management book in another context so that you'll understand how to manage your team at work. This is a deeply weird idea for an anime, and they made like 12 episodes of it. Wow. So yes, she goes and she ends up, she is able to manage this baseball team as best she can, and applies the lessons of management to how do you motivate people, how do you do all this throughout the entire story. And it teaches all of these lessons about all this kind of stuff. It's so much fun because it's this wacky premise thrown together, and because it is trying to do so many things at once, in a sense, there's always something new happening. There's always kind of a new plot point to work on. There's always some new management lesson to learn. And 12 episodes is actually exactly the right length of time, where this is like an OVA. You'd get one or two things, but you wouldn't really go into too much depth. One of the things I like is that later on in the series, like, there are some things which she really struggles to apply to this team. They just don't really match up very well. And she has to get creative, and she has to kind of think a lot about this. I also appreciate that this actually does have a story. It is not just that. Stuff happens, and there is development. I believe one person quits the team. There's evolution. He probably comes back. It's not a particularly, deep series, but I found it to be just, really charming, and just really, really nice and fun. And yes, there's a little bit of melodrama. There's a little bit of, why they were friends and all that kind of stuff. But it's just very, very fun and sweet, and the weirdest concept for an anime ever, I would argue. But it's there. It's a thing. So if you want to learn how to manage a baseball team or how to be an effective manager at work, watch Moshidora.
Is a copy included in the book? So
I
does
wish.
that like hardbound book, like if you buy a copy today, you get the 12 episode DVD of Oshidora, and you open it up the back and be like, what the hell's going on here?
Well,
it's the new training film for when you
go.
open your new job.
Exactly.
There you go.
Well, it turns out, so you know those things like the manga guide to physics, and the manga guide to math. Yeah. It's basically that, just anime. It's like, okay, how do we get people to care about management? We'll make an anime with a cute high school girl, and baseball because everyone in Japan loves baseball. Okay.
This is like the Ibaraki Trading Company weekend management getaway. Okay, welcome to the Ryokan. Now the schedule of events. We're going to spend the next 2 days watching an anime. Where am I at? What happened to here again? Like, this is going to train you about management.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It does have the downside that it was made in, I think, 2003 or something like that. So the budget is not awesome. They're doing their best, but it does not look great a lot of the time. So it's fine. It's just one of those things where, okay, they're they have just enough money to get this made. But cute.
Peter Drucker didn't have a deep pocket that he wanted to fund this out for?
He passed away by this point.
Yeah.
I think he passed away in 2000, something like that. I don't know. Well, no, he's alive as of this book. I don't know. But
to say that would be an awkward call to the estate. Be like, "Hi, is Mr. Drucker there? He's unfortunately passed away. Well, we have this idea."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to be clear, for those who are not familiar, Peter Drucker is probably the premier, he was basically the first person that I'm aware of who actually, analyzed the function of management and asked how to do it better. This is back in the 50s and 60s when he first got started. And said basically, there's lots of stuff about the frontline people, about how to optimize factory work and so forth. But no one really talks about how managers do their job and what are the effective ways of doing that. What is their role and goal and so forth. So his stuff is brilliant and it's very well written, and he has a lot of experience with a lot of different things. So he's if you're gonna do an anime about management, that is the thing to do. Just why are you making a baseball anime? I don't know. It's fun.
Because people love baseball.
Exactly.
It's the universally loved sport.
Right. Very
and
true.
Obviously there must be something to baseball management that is more akin than soccer or some other given sport, I guess, maybe?
I don't know. Well, in fairness, I don't know that a lot of other sports have a manager in the way that you have, so she's not their coach, right? She's managing the team, which is a very different kind of a role. So I think it's kind of that as well. So, I don't know.
She is George Steinbrenner. Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
I actually met him in an elevator.
Really?
George Steinbrenner. Yeah. I was with my dad. We were in Florida in one of Steinbrenner's hotel. Didn't know it was his hotel. Mm. And we were coming down. We were just on the verge of checking out. And so we're coming down. My dad and I are going down the elevator. My dad's nudging me. He's like, look. I'm going, I was in my teens. I was like, hey, stop it. And he's just like, look. I turn around and turn my head, and there he is, George Steinbrenner.
Wow.
So we walk out of the elevator and we go up to the front desk. He's a little bit ahead of us, and he also owns an apple orchard nearby. So he was making sure that the apples were in the hotels. And so, he turned around and he had one in each hand. He gave one to my dad and gave one to me. I was like, here you go. Talked to him for a couple minutes about baseball, and then off he went.
Wow.
He was a tall dude. He was a
autograph.
No.
Did you get an autograph?
I was too stunned. I'm like, I have an apple one. But dude was tall. Dude was a tall guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And you kept that apple to this day.
It is.
Moldering pile of fuzz.
It doesn't quite look like an apple anymore, but it's in my closet.
Oh, God.
It's sentient now, but you know.
Yeah.
There's a slightly weird smell, but you know.
After 20 years, the smell goes away.
Exactly.
It's just powder. Just dust. Dust in the
Pretty
wind.
much. Cool.
I thought for a second that first image where her eyes are kind of bugged out and the bookstore lady's standing behind her, I thought it was Kadocha.
Oh yeah.
Because the style of the bookstore person, I'm like, you're gonna talk about Kadocha? I'm like, nope.
Oh,
not that one.
I could talk about Kadocha all day, but that is not Kadocha, sadly. Now you got me. Now I want to go back and watch Kadocha.
Now I'm gonna go back and watch it for the 30th time.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, that show! There's a show to analyze. There's also a show that had one of the greatest fan sub lines of all time, where the fan subber found a twist of phrase that was not in the original, but that was better than the original line.
Oh.
And it was a perfect summation of everything going on. I'm like, oh, dude! Like, that is exactly what he would have said. That pulls all sorts of things together. Just well done, fan subber.
Kudos to you, fan subber.
Exactly. Which I will not share here because it is past 11. But anyway. not relevant at that time. Also a little hard to explain the context of that particular line without people going, what? Really? Yeah. It's complicated. But I do have a question.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brent?
I certainly did not learn anything new about Mugen Train because we've all got that figured out. My gosh. I figured out Netflix likes anime.
Hooray! Good.
Yeah. And what else did I learn? I don't know, man.
Local prefectures love stories that feature them so that they can draw tourism.
Yep, that is very true. I will never forget watching that was it Tama Prefecture one where he goes Gunma, where he goes, yeah, I'm moving to Gunma, and everyone goes, you're going to Gunma? Dude, that place is just, why would you do that? It's terrible. It's just like the worst place in the country. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. We could take the joke. Good on you.
Yeah.
We know it sucks here, but we love it anyway.
Yeah, it's like a New Jersey tourism thing that just leans into all the New Jersey jokes,
Jersey, it could be worse.
Exactly.
Great slogan.
That's pretty much what it is. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those. Honestly, my mind is full of Grave of the Fireflies. I don't have much more capacity at the moment.
Well, I certainly am still stunned at the Crunchyroll Funimation.
Yeah.
That it was cash. $1.175 billion in cash. Beyond the briefcase joke, I mean, literally all the people are gathered around in a room, and they wrote a freaking check, basically. You're like, who from Sony was like, hold on a second, get the check out. There you go. There's $1 billion.
What I would have liked to have seen, this would have been a great scene. Just the two companies across from each other's tables, and then just like this, just bundles of cash just fall on the table, with one side just going, "It's yours. All you have to do is say yes."
Yeah, and
it's like old demon type thing going on.
And to be clear to those watching, the deal has not been inked yet. Like they still have to get like regulatory approval and all that kind of stuff. So the money is still, the check is still to be written, but that is what that check is going to be.
Yeah, but I mean, I can't imagine where regulatory. I can't imagine where there would be anybody who would, the FCC would be like, no, you can't do it. You know what I mean? Because it's like I don't really see where it's like cornering the market in any kind of way. That's like Sherman Antitrust Act. Be like, no, this will be a conglomeration. You guys can't do that. You control prices.
In fairness, like High Dive's not huge. There aren't really. Those are definitely the two biggest streaming services in the anime world. So.
But we've got Netflix here, 100% viewership up in Netflix, for anime, and they are producing their own series.
That's true. That is very true.
There is viable competition within the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But can you just imagine being that one person who signs the actual check? I mean, my hand would be like, it's over $1 billion. What is going on in the world that I'm doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
For an anime streaming platform.
So, right.
Yep.
This is not Studio Ghibli. It's just,
sir.
Well, I mean, just roll the clock back, enough years to a group of kids that got together and said, let's call our thing we're going to do Google.
Yeah.
And it's like, Well, here's 20 bucks. Can I have like a 15% interest? Here.
What would Tezuka think? What would Tezuka think?
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. Yeah, that's a thought. Well, and this makes me think. I mean, all of Crunchyroll's competitors back when let's just be honest. Back when Crunchyroll was a fan sub pirating site.
Yep.
Because that's what it was. And one of dozens. You think back to those days, and they were the ones that won out and survived. But then, like you say, you also think back to those eras where years and years and years ago, we were all saying, look, anime industry, you need to get online. You need to get your streaming services worked out. You need to get all this stuff happening because the internet is the future, not these little silvery discs, which is we love the silvery discs.
Yeah.
And it's happening. It's actually happening.
Well, think of Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Easily could have said the same when they acquired InfoSeek because they wanted to get the Disney interactive thing going. They had, all these things they were trying to piece together.
What did Disney
20 years ago? Unreasonably large amount of money. And they lost like $300 million in the transaction because they gutted out InfoSeek, launched Go.com, and the whole thing crashed and burned.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? That's still, there was some concept of the coming of the internet time where it was going to be, we can move away from these, physical assets. We're producing the Diamond series of DVD discs or the Gold series or whatever else. And we'll just make it pay to play digital platform. Really decreases our inventory of physical assets and increases our net worth by gazillions.
Well, remember there was that argument once upon a time that said if you don't sell the DVDs, you're gonna die, and streaming's gonna kill anime.
Yeah.
It just means you have billions of people who now can get access to that cheaper than they can that DVD.
Yep. Yeah. It's about $500 million, by the way. Disney paid for InfoSeek.
Yeah, and they lost $300 million of that $500 million. They shuttered the entire operation, fired off everybody, and only kept a handful to do Go.
Yep.
It was
Wow.
The investor report was like, it was dismally sad because it was not too far after that John Carter, the Lone Ranger, and it was just like the reporting, all that's like we just lost 300 million, we lost 270 million, we lost 300 million, something else. Like you got to break eggs to make an omelet, but you don't kill the chicken, burn the chicken coop down, and set the farm on fire.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Man, I forgot about that. Yeah, Disney was not looking great at that point.
And they wrote it all off. It was all right down, and they came out swinging. And if you told me they took the years to do the homework to get Disney Plus to be where it's going and what it's doing, then hallelujah, all that carnage that was the loss really paid off in the end.
The Lone Ranger came out in 2013.
Hmm?
Disney bought Star Wars the previous year. I wonder how much all of this sort of falling apart wasn't, part of that impetus to say, what's successful? What's working? What can we buy that just prints money? Oh, Star Wars. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
And Marvel. Let's do Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel prints money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. When was that?
What were all these big trades?
That was 2009. Yeah.
That seems like that was longer ago than I thought it was.
Yeah, me
Wow.
too. According to Reuters, Disney agreed to buy Marvel for $4 billion in August of 2009. I'm surprised.
Which
by
in
that.
today's dollars would be 100 million billion trillion dollars.
I think
Nice.
that's worked out well for Disney. I'm just gonna go on a limb.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little.
And you can suffer with a business acquisition and 2 turkey movies, the aggregate loss of $1 billion and some odd dollars, and still pay out billions and then end up with all the monies. Yeah.
Gosh. So
Yeah.
let me ask you.
I can see
sort of-
why Toei really wanted to emulate that. Be like, how do we do it?
So let me ask you guys this question. The pendulum always swings. What's going to be Disney's downfall?
Too many Star Wars franchise things.
Burnout?
Although I think
drowning
they're
people
learning
in Star Wars
I
at the
think-
moment.
No, I think they're learning on the Star Wars movies. I think they're going to concentrate more on series.
Yeah, Mandalorian.
And I think honestly, I think what the downfall is going to be is there's going to be a licensing war for the rest of the Marvel characters, and they're not going to do well because they're going to do what happened in the 90s, which was or 80s and 90s, when Marvel went ahead and just started selling starting rights left and right just to stay afloat.
Right.
Disney's probably going to buy all these characters and do nothing with them.
Yeah.
Or they're going to try to
Like Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. They bought him back and didn't do anything with it.
Well, I mean, they bought freaking Howard the Duck, the worst movie ever.
Yeah.
But they bought Howard the Duck, the license to do Howard the Duck. Now, are they going to continue to do that? Are they going to continue to do storylines? Because after a certain point, generationally speaking, people are going to stop watching that. They tapped into a market that was primarily aged, but it's going to age out here pretty soon. On this because the Avengers Thanos series, that the whole snap, that whole storyline, phase 1 through 4, was 1977. 77 to 78. Yeah. That's how long that ran. So they're not going to be able to do anything. So I'm guessing, and my guess is that they're going to drop a lot of money into Fantastic Four, and then they're going to get burned real bad because Fantastic Four is just one of those movies where it's just really they needed to do Fantastic Four and Avengers at the same time. You can't just fit Fantastic Four.
They're going to bring Jessica Alba back?
Don't get me started.
Fantastic Four is not to me, is not the kind of concept that works well in live action. Like, it needs to be anime.
No, it doesn't. No. Yeah. I totally agree, but I think they're going to try.
Yeah, I agree.
Because everyone else has freaking tried.
I wonder what it's going to take for Star Wars to fade. Because the first fade was George Lucas saying, okay, Jedi is over. Return of the Jedi is done. We'll still make stuff, but the prime of this is over, and I'm kind of intentionally letting it sort of sit for a while. And then it started accelerating, and it hasn't stopped since, really.
I think the movies are pretty much done. I think what's going to happen
the
next
mainline movies.
Yeah, the mainline movies. You know, they were going to do more with the Han Solo character, and they just said that. And the actual storyline of the original movies, which is done now theoretically, did not end well.
True.
I mean, I saw them all in the theater, but you know, I enjoyed what I watched, but I didn't like the last movie. However, the series, I think they're going to continue stream secondary, third tier characters. For example, Mandalorian ended. Spoiler alerts for anyone who hasn't watched Mandalorian. So the Baby Yoda. So, like I said, the storyline is over. Mando may not be. I don't. They've already set up for the next season, and they're creating a third Mandalorian or second Mandalorian spinoff called the Book of Boba Fett. So, and it's what's his name that plays the clone that had played the clone.
Cool.
Yeah, he plays Boba Fett.
Nice.
Cool.
So I think they're going to do more things along that line. I think they're going to explore the actual universe in a better, more detailed fashion, so you can get a better feel for it and understand it. And I think they're going to get like a little bit more. You know, these are how the Star Wars universe works physically, because you never really got that. Yeah, it's just like, oh, we're gonna go to Dagobah. Oh, there we are. We're at Dagobah. Surprise! Here we are. You know, things happen instantaneously. You know, that kind of stuff. But I think they're just gonna go into that. And I think in order for them to really make money off the movies, they almost have to either reboot the whole thing, which would be a disaster,
and they will,
or they'd have to come up with a whole new line characters, the whole 9 yards. But they do have an entire book canon that's part of canon. That's canon in the series that they can draw on.
Yeah, I mean,
that was the inner Star Wars geek coming out.
I hear you. I mean, this is Disney. They are a conservative company, so I would bet on reboot more than I would bet on anything else.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
I don't bet against the house. I mean, the House of Mouse. It will go on.
Well, but remember when Eisner came in, Disney was going to be sold off lock, stock, and barrel. Like that company was in dire straits when Eisner came in.
No offense to Roy E., but Roy E. was not great at the helm, and when they hired on Eisner turned things around. Yep. And I think Iger has done a fantastic job with diversification.
Yeah.
To a degree that I don't think you'll ever see the dark 70s, 80s again. The question will be, will they settle in for the sort of long term, and then it will be somebody else that doesn't unseat them but makes them less relevant? And that's going to be the question of who's going to be the youngster that's going to grow up and sort of shove the mouse to the side.
Yeah. It's going to be like
funny roll. It'll be funny roll.
It'll be funny roll.
I think you're absolutely right. I think they're going to be like I was thinking AT&T. Actually, not inaccurate. They're going to be a giant conglomerate company where just their name is stuck on it, but that doesn't really mean anything anymore. You know, they're just a production house, and they're doing a billion things, and they make money, and that's fine. But it is so wide, so diversified that there's no real brand anymore.
Well, they're physical properties. Despite the Corona issue that's obviously globally concerned, they're physical assets in the park operations. People. Even though you go and a hot dog's not worth $9, people go and spend $9. So those physical assets are ridiculous cash cows, and they will, once this glitch in time gets done, they will resume printing money. So that was always going to feed the pump, and they're going to be able to lose $1 billion on various ventures, and then make $1 trillion. And then lose $5 billion, and then make another $10 trillion. It's going to be an ebb and flow over the course of time. But I don't think they'll never just disappear like Laugh-O-Gram films, started Laugh-O-Gram. That just didn't go anywhere.
Right.
But
you look at RCA Victor, right? They were one of the biggest companies in America at a time, and they're gone.
Yeah.
It can happen. I also, now that you bring that up, I wonder what's going to happen to amusement parks, because we have the double whammy of amusement parks in general have been seeing a decline. And then coronavirus hit, and folks were like, "Wait, I don't need to go to an amusement park to have fun." Amusement parks are nice, but they're also like $70 a ticket. So I wonder how amusement parks are going to deal with that in the future. If amusement parks will have to evolve as well in some surprising ways. We're already seeing.
Well, they're going to continue skewing to rich or the disposable income inclined.
Mm-hmm.
And you may see more of like their grad night things that they do at the Disney parks, where high school, college graduates, and they have discounted rates and group rates and things. You'll see more of the promotional kind of stuff. I know I keep getting emails. It's like, select parks at these dates are 30 to 35% off your stay, and if you get in now, you can get like free dining plan. So they'll find ways to adapt that, but people, it's like once you get in there, it's that mindset of, I'm going to spend $100. I could have spent $150, but there was a sale. You'd still spent $100.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, hey, it'll be 30% off here, and you'll go in and buy a $9 hot dog, and they'll be like, every time you buy something, you now save less.
Do you remember Videopolis?
Videopolis,
the teen nightclub within Disney World, or Disneyland. It was in Disneyland. They opened a dance club in Disneyland.
Oh boy!
In like the mid '80s to get the hip crowd into Disney World or to Disneyland to make them watch, and like you could, and it was like you were saying, you could just come in separately just to Videopolis, like you didn't have to get attendance to the park. To do that, and so they would essentially just advertise out and get as many people in to do this, and they were not the typical Disney crowd, so they were drinking beer and doing all sorts of stuff all over the place because they were teenagers, and it lasted I think like 4 years, and after like multiple calls to the police and people complaining about noise and people drunk teenagers pushing them aside, they're like, no, this was a really bad idea in every way, shape, and form.
Well, Pleasure Island in Disney World went from '89 to 2013.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, and people literally, you go in. I was there shortly before it closed. It's like, what? But why? Why is it going? They're like, well, Pleasure Island's on an island. Right. And when people get really drunk, they fall in the lagoon.
Oh.
It's like, wow.
Of course. Yeah.
That's something your insurance people are probably like, no. You can't have people drowning in Disney World. This is a horrible thing. So, but
I think
whether that store moved on, rebranded, whatever they were doing, and it's still ridiculously earning money.
I think what it is that as long as a theme park can continue to be relevant, then they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So as long as they keep, and that's one of the secrets behind Disney is like, have you ever watched Defunct Land?
Yes, love Defunct Land.
I've seen
some of the shows like that on YouTube where they talk about like how things disappeared, like the sky. Like at Disney, the Sky Tram, like how that was like a really big deal, and it just disappeared, and like there's nothing left of it. And
they reopened it.
Yeah, they remade it.
Yeah, they brought it back. It was like, wow, that's unusual.
But as long as they can, do that with their parks, it's the parks that don't age well. It's the ones that go, yeah, we've had this wooden roller coaster that was built in 1962, and it's still active. When's the last time we were up at the top of it to check the bolts? I don't know.
Action Park.
Don't say anything bad about the old tooth chipper.
but as long as they can keep up with it, and that's why the roller coaster industry is such a big deal, and like each coaster is like basically a couple $1 million just to build, not even conceptualize, just to build. And so as long as there's and it doesn't matter what the coaster does and looks like, as long as they have the property. Here's the Aquaman roller coaster. Here's the Superman roller. Here's the Wolverine. Here's the I just almost said Daredevil. No, it's like going what? Shoot him down the tunnel.
Oh boy,
with the curves and stuff. But I mean, but no, seriously. I mean, the Aerosmith ride, way back when I went to see it for the first time.
Rock and roller coaster.
Rock and Roller Coaster 2001. And that was a big deal because the Aerosmith made a song specifically for that coaster.
Wow.
It was playing, as you're riding it, and it's an indoor coaster, so it's just like a lot of hard jinks and stuff, by the way. But
Indoor loop.
Yeah, indoor. There was an indoor loop.
Wow.
But so as long as you're able to do that with a mixture of the old stuff, like for me, the haunted house is always like whenever I go to Disney down in Florida, that's just like that's what I do. I'd like make a beeline for it. I'm just like that's my gig. But yeah, again, it's just staying relevant and also making sure that you can afford the insurance.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
my favorite is the one theme park that the dude decided to create an insurance company so he can insure his own theme park.
Oh,
Action Park. Yeah.
Action Park? There's a whole galaxy of bad decisions around Action Park. I mean, that's a train wreck right there.
Well, and I think for theme parks too versus thrill parks, Six Flags has never reopened Six Flags outside of New Orleans. After Katrina, they abandoned the park because they are some theme elements to Six Flags parks, but they focus heavily on their roller coasters. And with the new roller coaster designs being outrageously expensive, a park can't build a new big dollar roller coaster every year to attract the customers. So that's a one-trick pony. If you run out of cash to build the next brightest, newest, shiniest toy, people don't go. Disney has cashed in on having a little bit of thrill, a whole crap load of nostalgia, and enough innovation. I mean, with the Fantasyland expansion in Walt Disney World, they built a new Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs mine train. Wow. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was in the 1930s. You know what I mean? It's like you reinvented, you redesigned this ride. It's no longer just a little kiddie ride. It's a little mine train ride.
Right.
And you're still cashing in on it because it is nostalgic and it's new. You know what I mean? So it's like they've got a good balance, I think, where their style of theme parking, I think, will weather the storm better than Six Flags New Jersey, Six Flags wherever else. That's going to be tough in a down economy to pay off all those shiny new coasters.
Yeah. I also wonder if coasters
What's going on with King's Dominion?
King's Dominion, too.
Yeah. I haven't been to King's Dominion in forever.
I haven't heard anybody talk about King's Dominion in forever. I mean, I had somebody talked about Carowinds in North Carolina. They went with their kids years ago. And I was like, what the hell's Carowinds?
Yeah.
One-trick pony roller coaster parks they're having a hard time.
No, it's absolutely true. And I also wonder if coasters are just going to become kind of like pinball games, right? Where there's a devoted audience, but not enough to support a pinball arcade. I wonder when that is going to go, where folks are there's not enough people coming to the coaster to afford the $4 million price tag. Yeah.
Which I think that's right now with COVID. Thank you.
Totally.
This past summer, any kind of coaster park that's obviously below the snow line where you have reasonable weather, they can operate all year. But you do have coaster parks that are in the snow belt. So their operating season is only like April through like early September.
Yeah.
And that's their profitability, and that wiped that out,
Yeah.
with COVID.
Yeah, King's Dominion closes for the winter,
It's funny you mentioned that because I've never been on one, but one of the things that, because I look at things like Jackson Hole and I look at Colorado and like kind of like mountain resorts lately, and they have these mountain roller coasters. It's basically gravity drawn. You get pulled up a certain point up the mountain, and then you're in a car that you can control. You have a brake control.
Oh, cool. The little sleddy things.
Yeah, there's one where you're actually on a coaster where you're on tracks, and there's another one where you're in like a metal or cement, almost like culvert thing, and you go down on wheels.
Like a bobsled.
Yeah, like a bobsled. And it's what is this? There's a specific name for it. But anyway, these things you can actually control, and you can actually try to go down them with no braking. And there's a lot of GoPro cams of people doing that, and they're just amazing things. But they are basically anywhere from $15 to $20 a shot. So you go up there, you pay $15-$20. And you go down. To make one of these things starts at about $100,000.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea, you just it's a tram. You sit in the thing, and there's a pulley, a wire pulley that pulls the cart up the mountain. You get to the apex point where there is a machine house and also a person up there to watch to make sure that you got up there okay. And then it just releases you, and you go down the mountain.
Wow.
So, and there's different kinds of tracks. I think Weigard is the most prominent care of these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And a German-based company. And but it's just like an individual person. So it's not even like you're with other people on the roller coaster going,
yeah,
this. Interesting. And the rides can last, depending upon where they're made. The longest one lasts about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And it's in Switzerland, but it lasts about 5 minutes, and it's like a single tube track. So you're like on this thing, and it feels like you're just watching it. Like I'm just watching it. I feel like I'm going to fall out of the chair while I'm watching this. Yeah. But yeah, there's more and more of those. Those are cheaper. They're easier to build, and they're easier to take down. Now, what's interesting about roller coasters now is that you can actually dismantle them and move them in certain parts, in most parks. So when you hear about like a coaster being sold, what they're talking about is that they can actually disassemble the whole thing and put it up somewhere else. They usually put a new name to it or rebrand it or whatever. Yeah. That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Ultimate carny experience. Pack it up in the truck, drive to the next one.
God. Never ever want to be a carny in my life.
There was an amazing PBS documentary called, I think, Carnival. It came out 10, 15 years ago, and it just followed, I think might have been Big Apple Circus for a season. And every episode focused on a different part of the circus. One was the carnies. One was like the so not just the carnies, but like the games. One was on just the people who put up the tent. And just, people who put that up and take it down. And there's a new guy joins and no one trusts him. Because they're like, if you screw up, we die. Or we lose a hand. And you got to prove to us that you are one of us. There's a whole one on the clowns. That's a story.
Mm-hmm. Scary clown experience. Oh no!
Oh, by the way, it's called Alpine Coasters. That's what they're called.
Alpine
Coasters. Go on YouTube. Alpine Coasters.
Yeah, that is a whole industry that scares the living daylights out of me.
Well, the circus industry has seen its day go by when Ringling Brothers shut down.
There's a saga for you. Mm-hmm. SeaWorld.
100 how many years in business? Yeah, SeaWorld. Jeez, that's going to be,
Yeah. That's
ethical issues with keeping keeping animals like that.
Well,
So.
that's fascinating to me about SeaWorld is it's like, literally society turns on the basic concept of your park. Society decides that what keeps your park open is immoral. It's like, oh, what do we do now? Like, ouch. Yeah.
Well, the aquarium here in Baltimore, we don't show dolphins anymore.
Oh.
It's part of it's just dolphin rescue now, or training, or that kind of a thing. But they don't even allow audiences in it anymore. So they got rid of the dolphin show shortly after SeaWorld. After SeaWorld, what they did is they started showing people the enrichment activities they do for dolphins. So that was legit because that's something to keep the dolphins active and sane and that kind of thing. So the crowd would come in, but they're no longer like going, okay, snap the finger, you're gonna jump through the hoop and you're gonna get the little fishy. No, it's all that is done now. That's based on that Blackfish.
And I'll always give the president of SeaWorld credit when he came out with the announcement where he said, you know what? Yeah, you're right. This I'm not comfortable with this anymore. Like, this is kind of creepy, and we're just gonna stop. Just done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do this anymore. Like, thank you. I actually got a chance to swim with dolphins once, and it's like, I grew up with dogs. There's an intelligence to a dog and how it interacts with you and how it looks at you and so forth. A dog comes up and says, okay, boss, what are we going to do next? A dolphin looks at you and says, hello, equal. There is just an intelligence to the dolphin and how it interacts with you and how it's doing things where you're like, oh yeah, this is somebody. Like, it's a very different experience. It's remarkable.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really, like, immediately you can tell, oh, this is not an animal the way I'm used to thinking of it. Yeah. It was cool.
Wow.
And kind of like you were saying, they would let them in, and we would just, they would just come up, and we would grab onto their fins and ride them around, so they weren't doing tricks or anything. And they clearly enjoyed it because they just come on up, and it's actually kind of funny because they said, they might not let you do it. Like, we can't guarantee that they will do this because this isn't like a training thing. It's just something that they enjoy interacting with humans, and they'll take you around things. But, they have personalities too. They have moods. Right. So.
Sometimes some dolphins are jerks.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't imagine.
There is that story of how
Shamu was a jerk. Be like, that's a lot of jerk.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, there is that story about how there was that one dolphin that fell in love with his trainer.
Yeah, I've read some of that. I've heard.
Oh, is this like poor little Grape-kun in Japan who's like in love with the PPP poster board from Japari Park?
No,
is it like that?
This is a dolphin who reacted the way a dolphin would to something that you are attracted to.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had to deal with that. Yeah, that. Oh.
Well, good for dolphins not letting species hold them back.
No, it's one thing I've learned from anime.
They're leading the precedent right there.
Yeah.
Interspecies love.
These interspecies reviewers. Oh, wait a minute.
Hey, there we go.
Hey,
like it's
we are.
There. Oh.
If you want a live action Death Note,
Jesus.
how about that as a live action?
No.
Yeah, it's not.
Rule 34. I think that's probably already happened.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. If you want a good laugh, go onto Amazon and search for self-published erotic romance novels.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
My lover is a triceratops. It goes in all sorts of insane directions. It's great. Yeah.
Wow.
What do you do for a living? I write dinosaur interspecies 4. What?
I write erotic novels about large animals. What?
Oh,
sorry. Again.
It's glorious.
So, and the person would be like, "So you're a fury, a furry?" No,
No.
right about.
Even better, no! I'm not one of those people.
Right.
I'm a serious
I'm
artist.
no brony. What are you talking about?
I like Jay over in the comments. Play some Barry White for the amorous dolphin. Because nothing helps you get smooth interspecies groove on. 9 out of 10 dolphins know Barry White and appreciate the music.
I'm sure they do. Man. Well, next week we have a slightly less depressing movie than Grave of the Fireflies. We have My Neighbor Totoro, the classic music film. Have you guys seen Totoro?
No, I don't
No,
think
I'm
I
unaware
have.
of anything done by any of Miyazaki or anything at all.
Who's Miyazaki?
I heard he worked at a place once. It sounds like
Yeah.
Giblets, but I'm not sure what
Something
that
like
was.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Very obscure.
I think I saw Totoro. I think when they did the retrospective, I caught up with that one year when they were doing all the Ghibli films. I intersected when it was in the theater at the right moment. I missed Spirited Away in the theater. I missed everything else in the theater. So I saw that.
Nice.
And then everything else has been like on DVD and stuff.
Yep.
So I enjoyed it
I'm trying
early.
to remember if I have or not. I honestly
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah, Jay, we're going chronological through all these movies, so we're going like in release order. And The Godfather isn't for years yet, so unfortunately, because you're right, it is a Christmas movie.
It is a good one.
Yes, but we haven't gotten there yet, time-wise.
You will eventually.
Oh, I love that movie. Love that movie. We'll be watching some Satoshi Kon, no question.
Now, Steve, if you've not seen it, you've seen the commentary on it on Totoro, right?
Yeah.
It's in pieces and clips and stuff because people bring it up here and there.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things where it's hard not to. It's like you kind of have to be, pretty much in a cave with no cell service to not know.
Yeah.
Cool. You are the one Mugen trained guy who's
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, I have watched Okada's video about my neighbor Totoro. There's not that much to analyze. Like, there are things to talk about, but this is not a multi-layered symbol for Japan's wartime atrocities, right? It is a children's movie about a creature in the woods, or is it? No, okay.
I was gonna say a lot of people have thrown a lot of very deep, serious analysis at Totoro. That I have no idea where they came up with it, but some of it's very novel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah, we will address the Totoro as Shinigami thing. That's a whole thing.
We do.
Yes, this is the one with the cat bus. If you're going out to find a copy, I highly, highly, highly recommend the Fox dub of it. When it was released by Fox Pictures and Troma International. Yeah, Troma. The Toxic Avengers people. They were the distribution company. I would love to be. I'd love to know what that negotiation was like. But it comes up as one of the logos. It's a really.
If it's anything like the Troma people, they probably just burst in the room and be like, "Hi, Troma, Toxic Avenger, how you doing? We're famous. We're gonna sign on this, right? We're good. Sign the paper. Let's go."
The Ghibli was probably just like, "Who are these people? What do they want?"
Pressure, just sign it. Get them out of here.
So I actually attended a talk by the head of Troma Entertainment, and yes, that's basically it. That's exactly what it's like. Just straight up. It was funny. It was actually at Gen Con some years ago, and it was the weirdest experience because Gen Con is this big gaming thing, and they have a variety of things. And there's I forget his name, the head of Troma, will be doing a panel, and I show up for this panel, and it's like 9 people in the audience.
Oh.
And he comes in, and he sits down, and he has like a bagel and a coffee, and he's like, okay, I'm going to talk a bit about Troma, and he starts making this like, impassioned speech of saying, people think independent movies now are Sundance, and are $9 million Sundance movies. And he said, we go out and we make a movie for like $5,000. We are truly independent movies in a way that people don't appreciate anymore. And he like really went off. He said, and yeah, there's topless women and teenage cat girls and Heat. Yes, I acknowledge this, but it's it is unique visions being.
Well, there's clearly an audience.
Yes, there is. Yes. Oh, that is a thing. So yeah, we'll be talking about that next week, day after Christmas. We are. When did we talk about? So yeah, the Fox dub is excellent. Unfortunately, it is a pan and scan. If you do find that one, but and I've seen it both ways, and what they edit down is pretty reasonable. Like you do lose a little bit of the scope of things, but it works pretty well. And I just love that dub. I think the Disney dub is, some of the voices just aren't really particularly, they don't work for me. So FYI, that is a thing. And yeah, I think that'll do it for us for tonight. I want to thank you all for being here as always. John and Steve, good to have you.
Thank you again.
Thank you all. Hope you guys
and now have we play more Genshin Impact, thanks.
Exactly, yes. Time to go back. Time to, gosh, now I'm confusing that with Breath of the Wild. Time to go out and kill some rune explorers and attack some bosses. Thank you all so much. Have a good one. See you next time.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Enjoy your holidays. Have fun. And there goes the cat. Goodbye, Baron.